other speakers, respected member of the governing body, uh, my learned faculty members and their students. It is a great feeling of satisfaction that we are organizing entrepreneurship ecosystem webinar today uh, in association with ICT Academy and Sky Campus. I know the quality of speakers are quite high, and hopefully we will be having a great session today. Uh, there are number of participants from the Commerce Department, Allied Department, SD College. Uh, over a period of time, we have felt the need that our education system is somewhere encouraging the students to join on the jobs, but there is a requirement to create um, entrepreneurs to ensure that we are having the proper benefit of the government schemes also. Like government schemes are encouraging the persons to establish their own startups, to encourage them to set up the first rated innovative practices. Over the last 2 decades, I have found out that there is a great development from the availability of financing, availability of co-working spaces, availability of incubator centers. Most of the colleges are promoting the students to start up their own ventures. What used to be about 2 decades earlier, now entire things have changed. The preference from seeking a government job has changed to establishing this own ventures. But at the same time, we must be made aware of what are the requirements, what are the risks, what are the opportunities, how to conceive an idea, how to conceptualize, how to convert it into a successful venture. And this attempt by ICT Academy uh, to have this program is certainly a great performance. I welcome the ICT Academy persons and especially the speakers like Mr. Kumara Swami, who is lead ecosystem partnership Accenture Ventures, Madam Avita Bajpai, Master Principal Cloud Architect Innovation Center, Oracle, Ashutosh Kothariji, Manager Startup India, Invest India, Mr. Akshat Agarwal, Manager Research Startup, Mr. Murgesh Kumar SK, CEO, founder of the ATM Sports, and Ankit Bhatia also, who is the owner of the Cape Herbs and our SD alumni. And I must congratulate the organizer, Dr. Yashpal, and moderator, Dr. Meenu Gupta, along with other faculty members of the Department of Commerce for this initiative. Um, Hopefully, we'll be gaining a lot. Now, I'll request um, Dr. Meenu to carry forward. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you for encouraging and motivating words and welcoming our high-tech dignitaries. Without taking much time, on behalf of Department of Commerce and Management, I would like to take the opportunity to introduce the very first speaker of today's webinar, Dr. Vaibhav Adalakha, CEO and founder, RISO. He is an early stage investor in startups and an advisor to multiple companies. His portfolio of companies are into cybersecurity, blockchain, direct selling, automobile, and in retail, with the overall valuation of more than 250 million. Honored with doctorate in blockchain, Dr. Weber is currently the CEO of RISO, world's one of the fastest growing direct selling company, which is running in more than 60 countries, and it believes in making people live tomorrow's lifestyle today. Sir, we also feel proud that you are alumni of our department. Sir, our audience is a mixed group of undergraduate and graduate students. You can say our future entrepreneurs. Also, majority of our graduates choose to start their own businesses in order to seize and to kill market opportunities. Dear students, in case of any query and issue regarding the discussion, please put it in the chat box. It will surely taken care at the end of the session. And one more announcement, for e-certificates, you need to fill feedback form, which will be shared during this webinar. So positively fill that. With these words, sir, I humbly request Dr. Vaibhav to please inaugural the session.
Uh, Thank you so much, Dr. Menu. And, like you said, that we have undergraduates in this session. And before coming to this session, I was given certain things that, I can really choose to talk about. And one of the things I really wanted to talk about was, what kind of education is required to be an entrepreneur. Since we know that we have all the undergraduates who are maybe in first year, second year, third year, from multiple streams, they always wonder that, okay, to become an entrepreneur, what is really required? What kind of study I should do that I can become an entrepreneur? So let me share my entire journey with all the things, how I really became an entrepreneur and how I really learned all the things, whether that was my formal education in the college, whether that was my school, what really helped me becoming an entrepreneur. So it started in year 2009. Just after my 10th, I was just wondering what should I do? And coming from a middle class family, I was just wondering that, there is one thing which is very missing in the middle class families, that is the financial management. So in my plus one and plus two, in my, high secondary school, I decided that I should be going for my financial studies. So I decided to choose FMM, which is a financial market management, one of the streams offered by CBSE. So I said, okay, let's go for that. And after that, by completing my financial management in 2011, I joined SD College. And the only purpose to join SD College was the add-on courses what SD College was providing. Like we know that you all are from SD College and there are multiple add-on courses which SD College provides. I was very keen towards the financial part. Okay, let's go for the financial management. And I was very inclined towards the security and portfolio management add-on, which is being provided by SD College. I said, okay, let's go for it. And during my graduation, I opted for BBA as well as add-on for security and portfolio management. While in my graduation, I decided that, okay, let's go for 1 mile extra. Let's study the financial planning. During that period, I started meeting the financial planners. I started going for CFP classes, which is a certified financial planning, which is known worldwide for the financial planning. I decided to do that. During this my college period, I was not only working on my graduation, I was doing some add-on things, maybe from outside while add-on classes into the financial management. That's how I already started doing that. I was just wondering that, okay, this is something that can really make me successful. Okay, let's go for it. I'm doing so many things in my finance. I'm so much into finance. Let's do it. Maybe this is something that can really make me successful. But after college, the reality hits. That's when the real time starts. After that, I applied while just after giving my third year exams, I applied for a job in one of the biggest financial planning company in the world. And luckily, I got selected there. The reason why I got selected there was because not because of my degree. I was not even a graduate. I was just waiting for my result of my third year. So I was not even a graduate. I was not holding any degree. They hired me because of the skills I attained while my graduation, the financial planning courses I was doing, and the financial planners I was meeting. It was not my formal education. They were not really very interested in whether I'm a graduate or not. And it is very, good to say that I was the company had 990 employees and I was the youngest one there. And the reason why I said, okay, let's go for it, because I knew if I can do financial plannings for other, I will be able to do it for myself. I worked there for 1 year. And in that 1 year, I learned about the financial management. It was entirely different from all the things which I learned, whether in my college, whether in my professional course. It was entirely different. And that 1 year really helped me understanding the financial management, how finance is real work. After 1 year, I quit my job and I decided, okay, let's do something of my own. I was very interested to know about that time at around 2015, this Ola, Uber, cabs, things business were really booming. I said, okay, let's go for it. Let's try this opportunity. I was just saving since, I was a financial planner. I little know that, I got to know that how to manage the finances. So I had some money saved with me. I used that funds to buy a second-hand car so that I can put it in Ola and Uber and hired one driver. And during that period of 1.5 year, while I was working with Uber, I had 3 cars and I was managing 6 drivers. During that period, I learned team management skills. There was nobody who said that, okay, I should go for some particular course. I should learn during something, by going for any classes to learn the team management. No. By managing the 6 drivers, I got to know how I can really manage my teams. I can call it my teams, they were working for me, with me. I can call them my team. So I learned the team management skills there. And in 2017, I was wondering, okay, this is something which I'm really doing. Now is the time to level up. And I got to know about a very good opportunity. You can say I started discovering about the blockchain. I come from a finance background. I know nothing about technology. I have been managing one unskilled, unregulated sector, which was very new at that time. I have just team management skills. I said, let's give it a try. And in 2017, I started up my company, QuickX. I just sold my 3 cars, which I attained during the period of 1.5 years with Uber. I sold my cars. I had somewhere around 10 to 12 lakhs. I said, let's start this business. Let's start this blockchain. This was very much in new. I thought, okay, this is something that can uh, create a lot of, employment for people. This was very interesting. I found it very interesting. In 2017, I started that company with a very little amount of funds, but without having any knowledge about technology, just being from the finance background. And during that period, I really learned. I started contacting the people who were from the industry. I started contacting people who really made successful businesses. And during that period, I really got good advisors on board. I started calling people, okay, I'm starting up this company. Will you help me running this business? Will you come on board as an advisor? And there were so many people who said no. And there were some people who said yes. And I started taking advices from them, how to run a successful business, how, I can manage the things, how I can really scale up my business. And during that period only, I got to know how to sell. Whenever you're building any product or service, it is very important that you should be able to sell. And during that company in QuickX in 2017, I got to know about the skills. I learned these skills about how I can really sell. And I was just learning that how I can really get good people on board. And I'm really fortunate to tell you that that company is really that is working pretty fine right now, and that is valued more than $200 million right now. And if I go back and I see that, okay, in my first year of my job, I learned how to do the financial planning. While I was just managing my cars, my Ubers, I got to know about the team management skills. When I started my company, QuickX, I had no knowledge, nothing. I was no knowledge about technology, nothing. And in that period, I got to know that how this technology really works. And I also got to know how to really sell. Not coming from the technology background, I can say that in 2019, I was awarded, I was given that honorary doctorate in blockchain. That's such an irony that I'm not from technology background, but one American university giving me doctorate in technology for my contribution in this field. So all these things I learned during while I was working. There was not kind of any formal education which I can say that was really helping me during the process. I was building my companies, I was working, I was doing this. And after 2019, I had two options. Now my company is pretty successful. I that is already worth $200 million. I have two choices. I had a very humble beginning. So at this stage, I thought maybe I can retire. That's pretty fine. $200 million is not, maybe more than 1,000 crores is pretty fine for me. I can really retire right now. Or I can do, I can build an organization that can help others reach what I did during this 6 years. In 2020, I started the company with the name of Rizo. It's a hardcore direct selling organization where we teach people everything what I learned in my process, in my journey. We teach people financial planning. We teach people how to really sell. We teach people how they can be a great team leaders, how they can build biggest of the biggest teams, and how they can really be really efficient in everything they are doing. And what we really do is because of the real life trainings, everything we do with the people who already made it happen. How I was really able to manage all these things, you have to understand. Was that my formal education? That somewhere helped, but that wasn't really main of the reasons. The major reason was I was very open to learn. If you believe that you really want to be successful, you should be very open to learn. Let's just talk about SD College. In SD College, there may be little more than 5,000 or around 5,000 people. Let's just talk about Punjab University. There will be more than 20,000 people. Let's just talk about how many students are there just in the Punjab. Maybe over 1 million. Let's just talk about in India, entire India, millions of students. So what is really special about you? So you have to define your calling. You have to see what's your calling. You have to find your side hustle. While working, don't just wait that I'm just in my BBA or my BCom. I will be doing these things after I'm graduate. Don't just wait for that. Just be very open to learn right now. Whether you're in first year, second year, third year, doesn't really matter. Just find your side hustle. Whether you are really interested in painting, maybe you are really interested in stocks, maybe you are very interested in photography, whatever it is, just discover your calling, find your side hustle. Maybe do a job in the startup to understand the things, how it really works. Do some internship so that you can have a real experience. You can have an experience which is really happening outside. Don't just expect that what you are learning in your course is something that will really be very useful in your day-to-day life. I'm not saying that, okay, just drop out from your college. No, I'm not saying that. Keep on doing what you're already doing. But along with that, you have to identify your calling. You might have heard that everybody is different. हम सब अलग हैं. I agree to that. But what makes you different, you yourself have to define that this is something that really makes me different. I have to go towards that and just start gathering the knowledge about it. When I say knowledge, go out and learn. Don't hesitate to ask the people who have really made it happen. Go out, just ask the people who are really from this field. Let me just share one example. In 2017, while I was working on my company QuickX, I called one person. I said that, okay, I really need your help in building my organization. And he said, बाबा जरा देखो तुमने कॉल किसको किया है, नंबर देखो, तुम गूगल पे नाम डालो, तुमने कॉल किसको घुमा दिया है. That was the exact words that person said to me. I cannot say the name of person. He's quite renowned person in 2017. And in 2019, that person called me and said, hey वैभव भाई, जरा मुझसे मेरे साथ पार्टनरशिप करो ना, तू मेरे साथ पार्टनरशिप क्यों नहीं करता. These were the exact words of the same person 2 years ago, just after 2 years. So things change. You have to take an initiative. And while, just I graduated in 2014. In 2017, just after 3 years, I was going out, I was asking people, come on my company board, just help me grow this business. And fortunately, I got the finance minister of one country on my company board. And when he came on my company board, it was in the news. So don't be afraid to ask. Be always open to learn. Go out, ask people, learn whatever makes you happy, whatever you feel you're passionate about, just go for it. And the second thing, what you have to do is time management. If I tell you that instead of 12 months, you have 13 months in the entire year, will you be able to perform better? I'm sure you will say that, of course, we have 13 months instead of 12 months. We can perform better. We got extra. You have extra time. Let's do a simple maths. Instead of sleeping for 8 hours, start sleeping for 7 hours. You will save 365 hours in 1 year. That comes out to be 15 days. So you have 15 days additional to work on your side hustle or anything you want to work on. Don't just say that, okay, I'm already doing my graduation, I don't have time. Sorry, you cannot make excuses. You have to find your side hustle, what really passionates you. You have time, all you have to do is the time management. You can even survive on 6 hours of sleep. I believe 6 hours is pretty decent to sleep. You don't have to go for 8 hours. Then you will be saving entire 1 month. Just calculate the hours, you will be having 13 months instead of 12 months. Utilize that time. Don't just spend your time on in the canteen. I know we all are SD people and we love to spend time in sitting in canteen having a patty and a shake. I understand that's really important. Do that. But manage your time. See how you really want to manage their entire time. Go for it, manage your time very efficiently. That is very, very important. The next thing is discipline. You should be very disciplined. Whatever you are doing, it's very easy to start and end the thing. Whether it is whether I say that, okay, I'm going to start my gymming, it's very easy to start and it's very easy to end. But my discipline is very important, that during this process, I'm very disciplined. I'm going every day, even if it's in a relationship or anything. It's very easy to start and end the things. You have to be very disciplined while ever you are working on your side hustle. You have to find your calling, that what really makes you passionate about, whether it's anything, your stocks, your painting, your photography, your singing, or maybe, you can say that marketing, whatever makes you happy. Just find your side hustle, do your time management, go for it. You can save, I just gave you an idea how you can really have 13 months instead of 12 months in the entire year. You can have 13 months. All you have to do is the time management. Be very open to ask people who are already from this field. What will happen? Either some will say no. What if somebody says yes? If somebody says yes, you will be able to, go ahead. You will be still ahead than anybody who didn't even take this step. And the final thing, being an entrepreneur, which you should really have, is learn how to sell. That's very important. I believe whenever we as an entrepreneur, we build products or service or anything, there is no point of building anything if I cannot sell it. Let me give you a very live example. We are from India, and India is a place where we really follow and believe one of the highest number in terms of the percentage arranged marriages happen, where our parents go out and sell to a girl. They do it for us. We ourselves cannot really sell ourselves to other. So our parents do it for us. This is the kind of culture we already have in India. You have to change it. It's the same thing follows in your business also. If you cannot sell yourself, you cannot sell your product. It's for the client. You have to understand. If you have to break a conversation, we all are young here, I'm going to use very example which you all can relate. You have a really good knowledge of cricket, you are amazing in cricket, and there is this one girl in the class you really like, and she loves football, not cricket, and you're just talking about the cricket. You cannot break the ice. You should be open to learn. You don't have to be the master of everything. You should be open to learn. Even if you have 5% of the knowledge, that's absolutely great. You don't have to be the master in football. You can have just 5% of the knowledge and you can break the ice. Similarly, you have to be open with learning. You have to learn how to sell, so that whenever you are going out, you can sell your product, you can sell everything. Being the founder, I see that everywhere I sell my vision to my investors. I sell my products to my clients. And whether it's my HR in my company, he sells that how they can see the future in the organization. Even if the person who is in the customer support, by giving the good services, good solution, they sell about the company's reputation. So everything is related towards the selling. So you should learn about how to become an amazing seller. So during this process, you have to see that there are certain things. If you really focus, it's a very easy things. Don't just rely on your graduation degrees. That will really help. I am not saying that just abandon that, go for it. But during that part, go for something that really defines you, that really makes you you. You have to find your side hustle, manage your time, be very disciplined, whatever you are doing, and just learn how to sell. Because right now, even if I hire or do partnership or whenever I work with anybody, we don't see that whether you are from IIM or Harvard. You can still go to Harvard and can still be a stupid. Understand that fact. You can still be a graduate from the Harvard and still can be a stupid. So that's never the criteria that whether you are alumni of this college, okay, and I can be successful in this, I can build a successful business. No, there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. You have to go towards the wisdom. Knowledge and everything you will keep on attaining during the process, and wisdom also will eventually come once you are in the process. And everything I learned in my journey by building the multi-million dollar businesses while I was working on it. Whether I talk about my financial planning, I learned it while I was doing a job. My team management while I was just managing the small company, or you can say just 3 cars. I learned my technology, about the technology, how technology works, how finances deeply works, how an organization works while I started my other company. Right now, I'm investor in UAE's one of the biggest automobile company. So now I'm side by side learning about the automobiles. I'm not from automobile. I cannot say that, okay, I'm not automobile. How should I invest in that company? I'm learning from the founders of who are already made it happen. I'm investor in India's one of the fastest growing retail chain. I'm not from retail chain. I'm learning about supply management, retail chain, how things works from them. So during this process, you learn each and everything. So you have to be very open while you are just building your things. Just take a step. You will keep on learning. That will eventually learn. Whenever you are just taking any step, you will keep on learning the things. And always make sure that if you are the smartest person in the entire room, you have to change your room. You are in the wrong room. So you have to be very careful. And in 2020, I started my company Rizo. Like I mentioned, that this is the world's one of the fastest growing direct selling company. And that's where we are already teaching, whether it's the students or whether it's any professional, that how they can really make it happen, how they can become an entrepreneurs. There is no any mantra to it. It's just that you get to be with the people who already made it happen, and that's what we do. We are a community. We make you meet the people who are from the community or who already made it happen. The people who are absolutely great in team management, people who are absolutely good in selling, people who are absolutely good in finances. That's how we do it. And that's what, like we say that, we let you live tomorrow's lifestyle today. So it's a very simple thing. Just follow the simple things and you will be successful. Don't just feel that my formal education is the only way that I can be successful. That's not the only thing. You have to go extra mile to achieve your dreams to be successful. That's all I have to say. Thank you. I'm pretty open to have any questions if anybody has got any questions. I believe, Dr. Minu, if you have, if there are any question, I can, I'm more than happy to answer that.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, sir, for enlightening our students and motivating them on this very hot topic of the day, entrepreneurship ecosystem, time management, role of financial management, team management skills in today's life is very important, especially for today's learner. Some of the queries I have received from the students, I would like to ask. Again, is there any benchmark for successful startups?
See, there is no benchmark. You just have to feel that whenever you feel happy, that's, I feel you are successful. It's not like my company is $100 million or 500 million or I reach $1 billion. That's not the benchmark. You have to see. That's why I said that, you have to find a side hustle. You have to find a calling. So once you're doing that, you will eventually start to love that. So you will eventually start feeling happy and your company will start to grow, because that time your work will not, like, you won't feel that it's a work. You start to enjoy these things. So there is no any benchmark in that case. You can set your own benchmark. You as an entrepreneur set your own benchmark. You have to see that, okay, now I want to go at this level. I want to go at this level. Let me just tell you one thing. I can share from my example how I'm setting up my benchmark. I said that I'm running a company, Rizo. There is not even a single company from India in direct selling industry who says that we are in 60 plus countries. And my benchmark is by 2030, I'm going to make this organization world's #1 organization. Not India's, not Asia's, world's #1 organization. That's my benchmark. So whenever you are in any field, go out and just set your own benchmark. You may say that, okay, I need to help these many people. I said that my benchmark is by 2025, I'm going to transform the lives of 5 million people. That's my benchmark for 2025. I have my benchmark for 2023, 2030. So you as students, when you go out, you will definitely get to know that what benchmark you need to set. And whenever you reach that benchmark, just level up. Never ever be satisfied. The moment you feel that you are satisfied, you know, the growth will stop. Be happy, but don't be satisfied. Be very happy whatever you're doing, but don't be satisfied. The moment you become satisfied, you will enter into a comfort zone. And only dead thing grows in a comfort zone. So you don't have to be in the comfort zone.
Yes, sir. Yes, you are very right. And thanks for sharing your personal experiences. Really, it's more worth rather than bookish language. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Yashpal Taneja, Dean Development, for formally present a vote of thanks to you.
Yeah, good morning to all the presenters who are there in the webinar. I must officially welcome Dr. Weber Vadalakha, the owner and the founder of Rizo. And it's not Rizo, as I have come to know with him. It's many companies, starting from the blockchain and then QuickX and then various other initiatives which he hasn't talked in this formal address. There has been many things to learn from him. I must officially first welcome the dignitaries from the ICT Academy, and then dignitaries from on the panel, speakers, and my dear and respected colleagues and the students. This is worth mentioning that 2014 pass out, just 6 years when students feel about struggling area, and this boy has made it to 250 million venture. And it's not only one thing, that's the mental setup which he's speaking about. And I believe as being a teacher, as being individual, and as being a kind of, when government is putting a lot of pressure onto the entrepreneurship ecosystem. Yesterday only when PM Modi, he was talking about that we should go for local, for vocal for local, and then buy only the things which are made in India. And he's pressurizing everybody to go for set up own ventures. And this man just graduated 6 years and now making national flag to the 60 plus countries. It's not only proud for SD College, it's a proud for all the nation. Vaibhav, I'm really happy, and I must thankful to you for coming over this podium, this stage, and setting the tone of this entrepreneurship ecosystem. uh, a teacher, when a teacher feels proud when he finds that the students have gone and touched the sky. And I'm really happy you have made our college as well as entire nation too proud. And we wish a lot of more heights, more new destinations, more milestones to achieve. And what he is talking about, wisdom, and then not only the knowledge, the key takeaway which I can take him, it's not only the organization matters, it's the matters what you are going to learn from yourself. What I have concluded from what from his whole address, this is something which is your internal. Do you have the zeal to learn? Do you have the zeal to set up? If you have these things, you can sacrifice your sleep, you can not bother about the education where from you are taking, and so many other aspects. Yes, definitely, when you have a company of the good people, definitely you are going to learn so many things. uh, this is a COVID time, Vaibhav, and may these things will come back to in a normal. I would definitely request you to visit personally and into Chandigarh, come over and meet all the people, all the students, and kindly motivate them in your presence. And I must be thankful to you for your wonderful words, wonderful learning to the students, and I hope they will be definitely following this and growing in the future. Thank you very much, Dr. Vaibhav. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I would be happy to come there in the SD college and meeting everybody in person and talking about everything about my journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vaibhav. Thank you. Yeah, next we have a very special person for all learners. A special person from a very renowned company, that is Accenture Ventures, and he's Shri Kumaraswamy, lead ecosystems and partnerships, Accenture Ventures. So I must be thankful to ICT Academy for bringing such a wonderful speaker, because as the profile speaks, and then it's all about lead ecosystems and ventures. And our seminar, the tagline is entrepreneurship ecosystems. So we would definitely be getting the benefits from his experience. And I must welcome Shri Kumaraswamy ji onto Goswami Ganesh Datta SD College. This is a privilege for us to have you and have your views for our students. And let me share a brief profile of Shri Kumaraswamy, who leads ecosystems and partnerships for open innovation India, and is responsible for identifying and managing partners, including investors and startup relationships. He previously was Director, Strategic Alliances to build corporate sales channels for a Singapore-based startup. Prior to this, he He had stints with multinational corporations, including IBM, Cisco, Intel, Deloitte, across consulting, sales, global account management, including the role as lead Digital India initiative at Intel. So my students, this is fortunate for us to have his wonderful wisdom to listen, and then finding a person who has been into the consultation for IBM, Cisco, Intel, Deloitte, and then various other kind of the roles which he has performed. So over to you, sir. We will be rather excited to listen to you. And once again, thank you very much for your being on the board, and thank you to the ICT Academy for bringing him onto the board. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for the kind introduction, and happy to be here. Good morning, everyone. So let me see if I can share my screen and get started. So I have about 30 minutes, I suppose, right?
Yes, sir. 30 minutes. I'm just going, just check it out whether you are able to, share the screen, sir.
Yeah.
Is it, sir? Yes, it is visible, sir. Thank you.
All right. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'll spend about 25 minutes or so on the presentation and pick up any questions following that. So I'll try to keep the slides as a placeholder so that you can see what I'm talking about, but give you some excerpts as well as point of views or stories from the work directly, right? So because that's day in and day out, I keep interacting with a lot of startups, and some of these stories probably will resonate. Yeah, so I won't go into the profiles. I think the introduction has been made. Thanks for that. But yeah, so one line I would probably call is as an ecosystem lead, the primary responsibility is to really tap into the ecosystem, especially the Indian startup ecosystem, and then bring them to some of our marquee clients, right? So that's the global 2000 accounts that Accenture has. So effectively, if you look at some of the names, if I can call out, right? So some of the startups like Yellow Messenger, now it's called Yellow.ai. So those are the kind of startups that we have taken to global markets. Right when they were with us, when they started with us, close to about 700K was where they were at, and they raised about 35 mil recently, right? So that's the kind of scale that we were able to kind of influence. But yeah, so there are many more examples like that. So hopefully this should give you a sense on what it takes to work with a corporate like us, as well as within the corporate setup, what is our focus overall, and how do we pick the right startups to work with. So that's the point of view that I will sort of give. Hopefully some of you will sort of take this journey to be an entrepreneur. And while you do that, some of these points you should probably consider, especially when it comes to the scaling aspects of your business. Okay, so some of these slides, again, I won't drain them, but again, these are very important slides that you should probably um, grasp in terms of what's happening in the market overall, right? So again, not necessarily try to read into the exact technology as such, but understand the way the technology is changing, right? So I think if anybody has seen the way computing has changed over the years, right? So effectively, if you see these graphs, the earlier era was a little more linear, right? So in terms of some of the technology transitions, whether it's from mainframe or even the web, etc. So it took a bit of time to really gain mainstream, right? So, but if you look at what's happening in the recent year, and again, this is a global phenomenon. India is uh, not separated in any way, right? So we see the same phenomenon happening here as well. So the kind of experiences, the kind of technologies all seem to be combining, right? So that is the effect in terms of not just the choice of technologies, but also where there is momentum happening, right? So that is the biggest shift. Again, even for a large corporate like us, it is not easy to keep pace with the rate of change, right? So that's one of the primary reasons why the ecosystem becomes a crucial element, where when we are struggling to keep pace with the technology changes, we might as well tap into or partner with ecosystem players to understand and adopt some of the progress that they are making, right? So that way there is a combination of all the best of breed technologies and the solutions and the innovations that is happening, and we can actually put together a very strong proposition to our clients. Is there a question? Okay, I'll keep going. Yeah, so I'll keep some of these again specific to the Indian context, right? So, but our mandate is a global mandate in the sense that Ventures is a global unit today with presence in about 50 countries. And the idea is to really tap into the local ecosystem again, whether it is the Silicon Valley or whether it is Singapore or some of the European startups that are emerging. So we basically, each of us look into one country and effectively pick up the best of breed startups that are coming from them, and then pick the right solutions that can be marketed alongside our services, right? But if you look at the stats for the Indian ecosystem today, uh, the one that has kind of really struck this year is the number of unicorns, right? So you had more than 30 unicorns happening in in this year. Again, probably one sort of a silver lining out of COVID, right? So a lot of these unicorns. Again, there is a much accelerated push towards the entire digital transformation, right? So that way there are a lot of investor excitement in the market as well, and that's one of the reasons why you have so many startups uh, getting into the unicorn status, right? The one that we focus is more on the deep tech startups. So that's where there is a very good complement in terms of some of the services that we do, and then the underlying technologies that these startups are providing complements exactly what we are trying to achieve, right? So in a for some of you who are not familiar with the word deep tech, so these are all the emerging technologies, right? So whether it is blockchain, AR, VR, IoT, so AI, especially AI ML. So all of these are some of the emerging technologies, what we call as deep tech. So effectively, if you look at again the transition from an Indian startup journey, right? So earlier the focus was mostly around the services, right? So there was an era where the services contributed a significant amount to our GDP. Effectively, these are the Infosys-like companies, right? So again, there was a lot of push for setting up BPO centers. Again, mostly a cost arbitrage kind of a value proposition. But lately, it has all been IP focused, right? So we are getting startups to bring core IP or patents and really deep technologies, and that's been the differentiator, and that's been the really overwhelming factor for all of us as part of this ecosystem. In terms of again, if you look at out of these deep tech, again, if you look at the contribution or where the startups are focusing, again, you could probably assimilate this information in a couple of ways, right? So one is either you follow what's happening in the market, pick up the areas that you would like to focus on, or even specialize, right? So uh, again, you can pick up courses, you can pick up learning material around these, as well as when you are brainstorming or ideating, you can probably take this information and see whether it makes sense to follow what's happening, right? So which is more of a herd mentality in terms of, let's say, if you look at the proportion here, AI and IoT together are 2/3 of the entire the the ecosystem development that is happening, right? So the number of startups that are coming out. Then in terms of adoption, again, enterprises or enterprise tech is the leader here, right? So one easy way to think about is the entry points should be far more easier here when you know that there is enough appetite in the market, again in the corporate and the client setup. You could probably ideate on starting something that is focused or leveraging some of these technologies and targeted towards an enterprise tech kind of a portfolio, right? So that is one key message. Again, there are investors again, which is growing very rapidly now in terms of who are focusing on um, investing in some of these deep tech startups. If you look at again, what's really changing, right? So one is the deep tech ecosystem that I talked about. Again, this was not the case earlier, and this is a very positive sign because this needs core expertise, right? So this is not a sweatshop. This is basically saying that as the Indian entrepreneurs, we have the know-how, the domain expertise, as well as the technology that we can actually bring up at par with some of the global hubs, whether it is the Silicon Valley and others, right? So that's the statement that we are making here, right? So, and it is a very bold statement, right? So, and if you look at the quality of some of these startups, again, I'll sort of give you glimpses of the kind of players that we are working in. Again, that's very, very credible, right? So again, if you look at the adoption from some of these startups, again, for a US centered, I would say, right? So, or a global player like us, 5 years or 3 years, even before that, this wasn't the case, right? So we were really kind of skeptical to leverage some of our deep tech players in the deliveries for our large clients. Again, there was a very skeptical mindset about the risks that we will run to. The risks could include the product being not at to the quality that we envisage, or could be the default itself, right? So there are so many startups that are coming up. You don't know whether they will exist and survive. And imagine a situation like COVID, right? So again, till last year, the skepticism was very, very high in terms of what's going to pan out. But that I think all of those uh, risks or inhibitions have been sort of pretty much addressed, right? So the ecosystem has really stood up, and it has just grown leaps and bounds over the last year. The second aspect I would like to kind of again talk about on the personal side is the corporate participation, right? So again, there is a very active momentum from the corporate side. Again, thanks to some of the incubators and accelerators, again, some of the corporate innovation arms, such as ours, which has basically taken the uh, taken the first step to really tap into this and bring them into the mainstream. So how do the corporates then work with the startups, right? So this is a depiction of some of the models that are happening. Again, there could be many ways or even multiple ways how a corporate approaches the way they work with the startups, right? So it is not necessarily a single model here. Uh, There could be internal idea generation. Again, I've sort of put some examples here. So again, these are not exhaustive by any means. So this is basically now corporates are themselves saying that they will invest in ideas that are generated by their own employees, right? So give them a forum to give or ideate and then take those ideas into market, right? So as a corporate example, we recently had started a program called Innovation Challenge, where we had actually asked colleges to submit their ideas. Again, these are tech-centric or social-centric ideas. In fact, we are in the top 10 of those ideas now in terms of a lot of colleges participating in those forums, right? Then the second one is mostly around the external ideation. So this is where we, again, corporates are looking to crowdsource through various collaborations. Again, this is the network that is kind of takes time to build, but a lot of people have successfully done that, and that's where they source, whether it is for, let's say, an acqui-hire or even for uh, specific technology insourcing that happens from the outside, right? Then the co-creation is where the corporates and the startups are working together to pick up a problem statement and then solve it together. So again, if you look at some of the fintech accelerators or airtech accelerators, so they are adopting this model where they know a problem and then they actually float that problem statements across multiple startups and bigger ecosystem players, and they all work together to solve for it. Right? Then there are the main ones here are the incubators and accelerators, right? So this has become the go-to model from an engagement perspective. So pretty much all the corporates and enterprises today have some sort of an incubator and an accelerator, or one of those, where they basically are either creating a cohort of startups that are aligned to their business, and or they are accelerating some of the scale-up partners which have a very clear value proposition defined. So we have a sort of a mix of uh, all of these. So which is what we call as the open innovation, right? So the open innovation construct that we are following is basically a non-exclusive kind of an arrangement with the startup partner. Again, it could include co-creation, where we take the startup and then actually co-create solutions with them. Again, develop assets which can be taken to multiple clients. Or partnerships where we have a client requirement, either consulting or technology requirement, then take the partner solution or the startup solution and plug those in as plug and play innovations as part of those solutions. The third aspect is the investments, right? So again, there are two ways we invest in a startup. Again, these are not necessarily for financial gains. So this is more of a business aligned investment, where we look at whether the particular investment that we are making will lead to more services that we could offer to our clients, right? So it's more in that revenue addition that we are looking at, or we actually invest in a very late stage startup which has already got significant market traction and potentially could bring some of those clients back to us as well, right? So those are very different investment theses, very early in some cases, very late in few cases, right? So there are specific programs that we run to make such investments. And again, when you look at uh, the entire model here, the time to impact is the consideration, right? So effectively, there are three benefits that we are effectively looking at when such a uh, whether it is investment or acquisition that happens. So, and there is a sort of a pros and cons of each uh, approach that we take, and depending on the right fitment, the call is made whether to acquire or whether to incubate or whether to invest in some of these partners, right? So this is a sort of a quick view of some of those decision points, right? So for, say, for example, if you are looking at an acquisition, then the rationale for that is to really look at whether that acquisition could add a top line or whether they can actually bring a new revenue line to us, or whether it can actually bring a new market access to us, right? So some of the acquisitions, if you follow the press, Accenture is one of the leaders in when it comes to acquisitions. We spend about close to about 3 billion or so just in the acquisitions, right? So we are very, very aggressive when it comes to acquisitions. And one of the mindsets that we have is to really look at whether these particular companies that we are acquiring can bring potential skills and capabilities or potential revenue from those markets and the clients that they are working on. The continuum, if you look at it, again, CVC is basically the corporate venture capital. So this is more of an investment decision, right? So while you take the entire company on your bankroll, if you are looking at an acquisition, you could probably take a stake in that company again to get access to the innovation that the startup is doing, but again to limit that commitment to just making an investment. So this entire continuum is available. Again, while we participate in each of these, the decision to take the approach depends on both the quality of the startup or the partner that we are working on, as well as that particular requirement at a point in time. So I will sort of move a little faster, knowing that we have about, I think, 20 minutes left. So I'll probably skip some of these slides. And this is just a snapshot again in terms of the some of the partners. Again, these are the companies that we associate or work very closely. And if you look at the partnership, so these are some of the programs that they are currently running, right? So Accenture is not the only one. If you look at Microsoft, they have 3 programs at least, where they are actually trying to again identify startups as well as make investments and acquisitions, right? So if you look at again the kind of uh, names here, right? So these are again quite a few Indian names that you could probably see. Unit is one, Bizom, BankDB. So these are all Indian startups as well. I'm sure. I think some of the other speakers, they probably are either investors or they are associated with some of these startups as well, right? So just gives you a glimpse of the level of activity that is happening, right? Now, in terms of, again, why I'm trying to show all of these channels is that there are phases when you are ideating or when you are starting a startup, right? So the first one is the ideation where you will put in the concept. The second is basically where you will actually take it to a prototype stage or create what we call a MVP, right? So minimum viable product. And the third is probably the scaling aspect, right? So the channels are today very well established. That's the key message, right? So you have access to so many forums, so many partners, so many channels that is no longer the bottleneck, right? So as an entrepreneur, earlier people used to struggle where they could actually go and get the investments or go and get some of the clients, right? So that is not really is the bottleneck anymore, right? So if there is a quality product and a sort of a clearly defined product market fit, there are plenty of channels today that are available even for a small team, right? So there are startups that we are working which are just 10-member teams, right? So but have a very strong value proposition, again very very deep focus, right? So they don't want to solve everything, but they are solving just one point of or one particular problem, but they do it really well, right? So better than anybody else. So that's the mindset, and that's the reason I'm showing all of this, right? To give you that comfort that don't get bogged down by lack of access uh, in the ecosystem, right? So there are enough and more options and channels available, and that's the focus really should be about to define the core offering, effectively aligning to what either the investor and the corporate is looking at, right? So again, some nuances here when we look at a startup, right? So while as a corporate, I'm not really bothered about which market segment or the TAM, right? So you could be addressing a 10 billion market, but I am looking at whether you can actually solve a particular problem statement for me, right? So rather than uh, how big a market you are trying to capture. So the investors, on the other hand, they are clearly looking at the financial gains, and for them, that scale in terms of which market you are playing at and what kind of fundraise, etc., are you trying to bring, those are important aspects, right? So not for us, not for the corporates, not so much at least. For us, it's really about the proposition or the differentiation that the startup is trying to bring. And the parameters, I think, again, having said all of these, while I talked about the the access to channels that are available, so many programs that are available to gain. The parameters in terms of again a typical mindset, but this could be a sort of a biased view because again we are a corporate setup unlike an investor. Uh, but these are effectively 3-4 key parameters or guidelines that you should probably think about, right? So one is the strength of the innovation, which is basically the originality, right? So again, when you say original ideas, it doesn't mean that it has to be something that nobody else has done, right? It could be a different way or different uh, uh, way to execute the same aspect, right? So there are so many startups, especially now, that are coming up, which are marketplaces, right? So again, for all the way from B2B marketplaces or industrial marketplaces, you have a marketplace for pretty much everything that is available. So what differentiates them is really the concepts around what they are trying to market. Again, the backend what you call the partners that they are onboarding as sellers, right? So that's where they're trying to differentiate again from selling art form to groceries to everything. So creating a marketplace is not original anymore, right? So anybody can potentially do it. There are tools that are available to do it quickly as well. And then there are hosting services, infra services that are easily accessible. So the originality of the idea, even if somebody wants to look at a marketplace, is really about what you are trying to bring together or what you are trying to host in that particular marketplace, right? So that's the strength of the innovation that we are really looking at. The second is the competitive advantage. Again, this is nothing new, right? So again, if there are so many players, I mean, you saw the statistics in one of the earlier slides. If there are 3,000 startups which are trying to solve uh, problems, and how are you different from the rest of the competition, right? So again, there is only so much that we can absorb. So the competitive advantage could translate to either the cost, right? So whether you can do it more cost effectively compared to the others, or it could be various aspects. Let's say if the client is looking to expand, whether you can accelerate that expansion through your solution, right? So those are some of the aspects again we look at when we evaluate a startup. Again, once this evaluation is done effectively, that's where we actually kind of start engaging and taking them to some of our clients. The third aspect around the business model is the clarity in terms of the value that you are generating, right? So whether it is for productivity improvements, whether it is for revenue additions, whether it is for cost reduction, right? So that clarity is very, very critical because again, as a corporate, we are trying to help our clients solve their issues, right? So and there is a price to that we charge to our clients. Again, as a startup, you are also asking for a price or a fee for your product. There has to be a clear 2x or a 3x benefit statement that you can clearly articulate as part of this, right? So otherwise, why would anybody be interested to take that particular solution? So that benefit articulation is again goes as part of the preparation during the ideation itself, that the cost of serving has to be uh, at least significantly lesser compared to the benefits that you are actually proposing to deliver as part of your solution. The the rest of the parameters, again, this is slightly more intrinsic in nature. The reason being that we prefer to work slightly uh, more with the scaled up solutions rather than very early solutions. So when we look at scalability of a particular startup, again, we are looking at whether it can actually kind of service multiple industries and not necessarily be very, very restricted in the way it works, or it serves one industry but goes very deep, right? So again, there are startups where which are working on oil and gas industries, right? So there the solution is very, very hardcore, uh, facilitated by the core industry experience that they have, and goes very deep in solving the challenges seen very particular to that industry. So either somebody has to make that choice, right? So while as entrepreneurs, it is easy to think that uh, you can potentially solve challenges for any industry. That call needs to be made whether you want to position the solution as something which is horizontal and can cut across multiple industries. Say, for example, a chatbot today or a virtual assistant could potentially work in multiple industries. But the nuance is that each industry carries what is the chatbot doing, right? So a virtual assistant is able to interpret what the user is trying to articulate, right? So in that context, depending on the industry, let's say, for example, if it is a banking industry, what the user is asking will be very different compared to a retail industry, right? So that the chatbot needs to be able to train and understand that specific terms for that industry, right? So again, that is where the choice is there. You will always have limited resources, so you cannot, again, even if there are investments that are accessible, there is always a limitation in terms of what all can you cover as part of that investment, right? So that's where uh, somebody has to make the decision to whether to go horizontal or whether to go deep in particular industries. Same choices will be made for the geography as well, right? So again, it is not necessary that if the startup is happening for out of India, that you will have to look at the Indian clients first, right? So again, proximity helps, but that may not be the only reason, right? So you could potentially look at adjacent markets. Again, there are a lot of players from our region who are looking at Middle East as a target market, right? So similarly, some of the Southeast Asian countries. So those options are definitely available. Again, that's where you will have a lot of these combinations where the headquarter is kept as US or Singapore and few other regions, while the development center stays back in India, right? So where you can actually leverage the quality of resources that some of our universities are producing, as well as being headquartered in US, you can potentially access some of those clients. So all these combinations are, again, these are not random events, right? So these are happening because that's how the investor mindset is, that's our corporate and client mindset is, right? So which sort of leads back to the entrepreneur aligning themselves back to these specific aspects. In terms of market potential, again, while the numbers are not necessarily the key for us, the product market fit is the must have, right? So there has to be a lot of emphasis and thought put into establishing this product market fit. Again, there is no two ways of going about it, right? So it has to really sort of identify either a niche that it is trying to solve, or sort of look at again solving it much more effectively, right? So whether it is the cost of service, as I said. So all of these again play a key part in terms of where we look at a startup and what kind of evaluation is done before even signing them as a partner to us. Last but not the least is the core IP that they bring in, right? So this is again because again these cannot be concepts anymore, right? So they have to be very, very clear in terms of again exclusivity, the newness, and some credible IP or patents that are associated with it. Again, there are few that not necessarily have a IP or a patent. Again, they don't want to sort of publish what their entire technology stack is. Still, it is very important that they have a very strong proposition that they are bringing, and that's where it helps us evaluate that and then partner with that particular startup. This is probably my last slide, and then I'll sort of stop. While I have talked about a lot of positives and very encouraging aspects of the corporate relationships, there are definitely challenges, right? So, and these are challenges which are internal to corporates, and there are challenges which are external to some of the corporates as well. The internal challenges are typical. Again, while you saw a lot of the corporates in the earlier map that I showed, but a lot of them are themselves developing some of these products. So there is an inherent conflict in terms of build versus buy, right? So a lot of corporates are trying to develop similar proposition. Their own employees are also coming up with similar ideas, while the startup is also trying to do the same. So there is always a little bit of a constant, little bit of a challenge or a struggle here in terms of making those choices, whether to build its own product versus buy or partner with the startup which has already developed it. Then there are obvious challenges in terms of sponsorship. Again, sponsorship could mean budgets, or it could actually mean mentorship and the right business owners who will endorse that particular solution, right? So while the startup believes that there is a very strong value proposition, unless the business feels or agrees with that particular value prop, again, the relationship will not really kind of grow without that, right? So again, sponsorship from the corporate, again, this is an internal challenge. Some of us are actually facilitating this area of the challenge, right? So day in and day out, we work with a lot of our internal teams, the business units, etc., to uh, give them the comfort in terms of what solution that we are bringing in and how it can actually help solve their client challenges, right? So effectively to address some of the risks or the apprehensions that they have. On the external challenges, again, these are slightly more uh, centered around the startup. Again, something that some of them they can potentially fix. So things like IP protection, things like integration. When I mean integration, it is basically if you are a B2B startup and if you are looking to target enterprises, there are plethora of solutions that are already existing, again, from big partners such as Microsoft or SAP to small partners which are providing point solutions. So you will have to find a sort of a clear position in that entire landscape. That's the integration bit where you actually kind of look at a complement where your solution could potentially play at. Then obviously there are challenges in terms of credibility. Again, some sort of credibility statements that address with the quality of investors that you are able to pull in. The better the quality of investors, the more the startup is trusted. So this is again the reason why startups typically incubate or put the HQ as in US and others, where definitely there is again it's not a true depiction of what the quality of the startup. It is just a perception, right? So some of the US investors are again perceived to be better. Again, our investors, especially the growth that we have seen this year, has again contradicted that particular perception, right? So clearly, I think we have better quality coming out of here. But again, this is just a mindset issue. Again, partly can be addressed for sure. But again, something to think about when you are incorporating a particular startup where you would like to do that, okay? And the associations that you would like to tap into. So that's again the last point that are the sort of the message I want like to leave with, right? So effectively, you will have to find the right team. So the team has a very broad connotation here, right? So the team that you yourself are associated with to build the product or build the solution, to the next level of channels that you work with, and that channel could be the incubators, some of the universities or academia that you become part of, or could be corporate like us that you work with, and not the least, the right team of investors and the advisors that you bring on board. So all that continuum is what you need to start thinking about. While it is okay to start the ideation at a very concept level, these are the progressions that you could potentially make to really bring to forth the quality of the solution. So I'll stop here and open for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for sparing your valuable time and enlightening our students about the blockchain and innovative ecosystems. You also share key trends reflecting Indian strengthening startups ecosystem. Again, it's very eye-opening, sir, when you discuss various innovative models in cooperative framework. So on behalf of the department and college, we are really thankful for your valuable time. Now, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Ms. Avantika Bajpai, Oracle Center of Excellence, Cloud Engineering as Master Principal, Cloud Architect, Innovation Center, CE, COE, JAPAC. During her 16 years of professional journey with MNCs and startups, Avantika has built AL. Okay, Anvita has built AI-powered solutions across domains, published research papers, patents, business and technology articles, and 3 non-technology books. She has been an invited speaker at leading conferences such as AI Connect 2018, Global IP Connection 2019, Indian Electronics Week 2020, and recognized as Powerful Indian Woman in IP 2021 by World IP Forum. This is great, really great achievement, ma'am. Awardee of 51 Fabulous Global Smart Cities Leaders 2020 and Woman Influenced Innovator of the Year 2021. She is also an alumni of IIT Madras and Bangalore. Thanks to ICT also for making Ms. Anvitika available on board and making us honored to listen her wisdom. It's now honor to introduce and welcome you, ma'am. Over to ma'am, Miss Anvitika Bajpai.
Thank you so much, Dr. Meenu Gupta. Thanks for the nice introduction, and a very good morning to one and all. President Mr. Upkar Krishna Sharma, Principal Dr. Ajay Sharma, faculty and staff, conference organizers, my co-speakers, students, and each and every participant. Very good morning to you. And it's a great pleasure to be here and interact with the students and rest of the co-speakers and panelists and other faculty and staff this morning. So with that, without taking much of time, I know I'm running 10 minutes late, so I will try to keep it short and try to finish in time. That is allotted to me. And my request to students is that you can see my screen, right?
Yes, ma'am, we can see, ma'am.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So my request to students is, keep typing your questions as and when you have any questions in the Q&A box. And when I finish, you don't have to hold your questions till the end. Keep typing in the Q&A, and towards the end, we'll have sufficient time for answering your questions, because what I speak should not be one-sided. My perspective is more, it should be relevant to you, like what you are looking for and what are your genuine doubts, what you are looking to find out. So I will take this opportunity to answer your questions as well. So topic of today is entrepreneurship ecosystem and a digitally enabled world. And so this is my agenda for today. I will briefly talk about some of the skills which are needed as an entrepreneur and even for the ecosystem. What are the components that one should look for? And then we will also touch upon IP and innovation. And previous speaker has made my job very easy by giving so much of overview about various components that I will be touching upon. So that's good for me. So IP and innovation, and then digitally enabled world. And this is a point that I will want to spend maybe some little time. Why it is very good time for entrepreneurs and then entrepreneurship ecosystem. And we conclude with your answering your questions. So what are the key skills for entrepreneurship, right? So these are some of the key skills as you see here. And in 2009, I have completed my entrepreneurship course from IIM Bangalore. And when I did my course, this was taught to me. So I just listed them all 25 topics here, and you can see them. So as an entrepreneur, like I come from a technology background. I have done my master's by research from IIT Madras. So what I know is I know product building as part of my experience and my education background. But when it comes to business, there are a lot more, like just because I know how to build a great product, will it work? Probably no. I also need to understand the legal aspect, the finance aspect, maybe marketing aspect, sales, and maybe I don't have to learn all of that. But in order to be an entrepreneur, in order to run a successful business, it's important for me to understand that these aspects are important, and who are the right people who can provide me, right? So if I have to just put my arrow here, you can see my arrow. So if I only know product development, and I think I have built a great product and I go to market, can I run my business? That's not the answer. The answer is that I need to see what other components are there. And maybe product development, being a technology person or technology company, I'm doing every day. But then occasionally I also need to look into costing aspect. I also need to look into finance aspect. I also need to participate in events and network with people, right? So all these components are important. Now, assuming you are from a commerce department, right? So assuming you have a very strong background in accounting or maybe finance, right? So if one of you comes with that background and wants to do a business, right, and start a business. Now, in a digitally enabled world, you might want to do a tech-based finance startup, right? So at that point of time, you might want to work with some of the technology provider who can do the software development for you, who can build the website for you, because this part probably you will understand very well. But maybe what you don't know, you have to partner with those people. And this is what you look for in the ecosystem. So ecosystem means maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever skills you have, that's your strength. But what you don't have, you look for and you find the right partner, right people, right incubation center, right accelerator, right VC who can support you in that, right? Because everybody has different focus. You don't get everything in every place. When I say every place, it can be some particular incubation centers will be focusing on maybe more of a tech-based startup. Some of the incubation center will be more focused on into social ventures or maybe businesses for India, and some of them are more focused for say a particular reason. So where is your market? Who what is the interest of the person or partner you are working with? Based on that, you need to see. So at the end of it, you need to see that all these components, when you put them in a business plan, I mean, in a business model canvas, if you are following that particular framework, then you know how it maps to. But at the end of it, you know what you are making, who are the people you are working with, how you are reaching to your customer, who is your customer, and do you have money to make it happen? Are you getting revenue? For what duration? It's more into investment mode. And at what time you will start generating revenue, when you become profitable. So all those components you have to have in mind when you are doing your business. And as an entrepreneur, even though you have a very strong background in one or two areas, but rest of them you need to understand, and it helps you to assess who to work with. So these are the key skills which are required for the entrepreneurship. Now, next point, IP and innovation. So when we talk about the IP and the innovation aspect, let me share some examples. IP, because previous speaker has already covered, so I'll not spend much time into it. But obviously, I mean, IP gives you one advantage to be ahead as compared to rest of the people who are doing similar things that you are doing, right? So if you have an innovative idea and if you have also filed a patent, you get that exclusive right to do that other people cannot take your market share, right? Because you have applied your mind and you have come up with that idea, right? So that's a privilege you get. And but when it comes to innovation, it's not only the IP or patent that you file, but it's also about the way you do business, right? And it's more related to the usability aspect, the product market fit, some of these things you need to look into. Let me give example. This is about when mobile phones were launched in early 2000, right? So initially the target customer, who was the target customer for mobile phones, is more into CXOs, right? Who are the people who are traveling, they will be needing laptops and mobile phones, urban cities, urban population, right? So that was the target initial market for this particular product. But then when there was a user study conducted, as a surprise, what came out of that study, that fishermen in Kerala, in India, they are using mobile phones, right? And it's in early 2000 when even incoming calls used to be charged. So fishermen in Kerala, then further investigation, like why it is happening. So when they did further thinking through and scrutiny of that particular surprising insight, they figured out that fishermen, when they go in the shore, they catch certain fishes, and fishes which are there being sold on the seaside, they need to price accordingly based on what they caught when they on that day when they are in the middle of the sea, and it helps them optimize their profits. So they used mobile phones as a community, right? So it's more about usability. Sometimes you show the value to the customer, sometimes the customer sees the value. You don't have to put much effort, but if something is beneficial, obviously it catches the market. So it's as simple as that. Let me give one more example. This is again sometime maybe more than 10 years ago, Razer launched a Gillette company. Yeah. So they launched a Razer. Let me not take the name, but basically it was designed by two Stanford graduates, and very good features that it's very easy to clean in running tap water and so on. And it was launched in Indian market at a very good price point, but it didn't run in Indian market. It was not a successful product. And when they again analyzed why it didn't become successful product, because it was at a very right price point, it was launched, and it has very good features, especially cleaning was very easy in the running water. And when they analyzed it, what came out, the insight that came out after this investigation is the following, that when you clean the Razer in running tap water, which was the main feature under which it was launched, they realized that in Indian market, when in a tier 2, tier 3 cities, when people are shaving, they don't have running water many times. They clean their Razer in a bowl of water, right? So that particular feature was not very useful. So sometimes, like, even though you create a very good product and it's a very good IP, but at the same time, the user who is going to use it, is it suiting his or her need, right? So that's very important parameter when you talk about the usability aspect. Second point is agility. Again, let's take example of, say, Kodak and Fujifilms, right? So initially we used to take pictures using cameras and camera rolls and get it developed, right? And then mobile phones came, and then everybody clicks picture using digital devices, right? So now when we talk about these two companies, one of them changed with changing time, adopted digital strategy, and other one didn't. And we see, so businesses have to change as per changing times, changing technology. I've given a couple of examples using mobile phones. So again, before mobile, there was Pager, right? Some of you would have known that device called Pager. So when after mobile phones came, that particular device itself didn't exist, right? So many times what happens, why I'm mentioning these examples, some of them are positive stories, some of them are negative stories, because when you start a business, not only as an entrepreneur, but even big businesses, they have to be keep changing with changing time, changing technology. So there's innovation, and then there's a re-innovation. Re-innovation means how market is changing, you have to change. If you don't change, there is no further market for you, right? So that's how it goes. And then we also talk about risk and opportunities. Take COVID scenario as an example. So last year, 2020, nobody would have thought that suddenly the COVID will come, and then so many industries, say tourism industry or hospitality, airline, we have seen that impact, right? And then that risk is there. And then even when it comes to startup, as per one report that was published by yourstory.com in June 2020, 38% of startups ran out of cash. So that risk is there when you start a business. And that is where your costing and your working capital management, some of those components that I've shown in the previous slide, they're very important to think through and figure out, because not only starting the business, but it's also keep it running, right? Until, and it's not that one time you got success is done deal. There's no done deal. You have to keep going, right? You have to keep going. And then opportunities. So with COVID, we have seen that how it impacted industries negatively, but also positively. You see impact in positive impact in digital industry, right? Now, if I'm speaking to somebody in 2019 or 2018, and we talk about digital strategy, certain businesses will say, okay, we'll do digital adoption maybe a little later. But now, because of COVID scenario, we have seen that adoption industry has accelerated by 6 years, right? So that's the kind of opportunity that has come in the digital business. And then so many companies have adopted. There were companies who were making clothes, and then COVID came and they started making masks, because that time maybe buying a shirt or buying a scarf will not be so important as compared to buying a mask, right? So how you change. So basically, usability is very important. Your product has to be useful to the customer. It's not about making the best of the technology, but technology that is solving the customer's need, as we have seen in the example of razor. Then change agility, opportunity, risk, and having the appetite to digest the risk and keep on innovating and re-innovating yourself as and when market changes. And this is the life cycle of any business. Even if you talk about businesses which are more than 100 years old, if they don't innovate and re-innovate themselves, there's no business, right? So that's about entrepreneurship. And then we talk about digitally enabled world. And why this is very important, the component, the term digitally enabled, because see, today I'm talking to you, sitting here in Bangalore, I'm talking to you in Chandigarh. Take a pre-COVID scenario when webinar and online events were not so popular. So at that point of time, maybe I will also think twice. I mean, can I visit Chandigarh for giving this talk? And you might also, so basically opportunities were there, but they were in limited space and limited constraints. So that is how it was. And now it opens up a new plethora of opportunities. You are able to interact with people who are so connected, even though, I mean, we are limited in our homes and so on. But in spite of that, we have seen new ways to connect with people, and it opens up new doors. And then when you talk about opportunities, it's not only high-tech businesses or high-tech market where we see tech enablement. When we talk about, say, AR, VR, or maybe fitness devices and so on, but also emerging markets, right? You talk about agri-tech, you talk about education in the rural sector, and we are seeing a lot of innovations, a lot of businesses coming up in that sector, and different use cases of IoT, industrial IoT. We are seeing a lot of startups working in that area. And traditional market, you are from commerce background, you know, I mean, how traditional banking industry has gone through the change, and it's called fintech now, right? So that's the scenario. So digitization and being so basically, I mean, one can be a digital business. Like I work for Oracle, we are a technology company. But at the same time, if you are a banking industry, right? If you are a bank, still technology plays a role in your enablement of business. And then these are major stakeholders. So since the previous speaker has already spent a lot of time on touching up some of these points, so I'll not go into details in interest of time. But roughly, I mean, academic institutions many of the colleges nowadays have incubation centers. So that's like first opportunity for students, that you get incubated as a student and you create something, some small POCs, and you consult with your faculty members. Sometimes you get access to government grants, alumni network. Some of them can also be the VC for you, and many non-for-profit initiatives, including TIE. So they help, and then government gives a lot of support to startups, especially because you contribute into job creation. So even when you file your patent, you get a certain rebates in your patent filing fee from government. For women, again, this fast track of patent application. So each central government gives certain kind of privileges, and each of the state government also has their specific programs to support the startups. And then corporate accelerators. So at Oracle also we have Oracle for the startup. So if any of you are interested, you can always visit our website or maybe write to me. I'll connect you with the right people. So these opportunities which are there for you, and in a digitally enabled world, it's very easy for you to reach out to people and connect with them. With that, my last thought, that entrepreneurship is a marathon. It's not like the one-time thing. The only thing you must do is you must time your POCs, time your experiments, keep it short, because if you fail early, you fail cheaper. If you keep it very, very long, maybe you lose more. But at the same time, it's a marathon. I've shown you in the very first slide 25 skills. So you don't know all of them together on day one. So maybe you know 2, 3, 5 of them. You will start with them, and then you, as a process, as a journey of business going forward, you learn, you develop them, and as and when you learn that, and some mistakes you make, you learn out of your mistakes, and then you learn the needed skills which are basically preventing you from going to the next step. So you go to the next step, and so you just keep going, and there's no race. It's your very personal journey. You decided to be entrepreneur. It's your call, how much, how fast, what you can do, how much you can afford to do. Not everybody has same start, not everybody has same pace, but if you keep going, as they say, big success is a 10 years story. So there's no overnight success, a 10 years journey. That we see in most of the successful company. So it's a marathon, and as long as you keep going, you are in right track. And even if businesses don't work, I mean, entrepreneurs always are successful because they are entrepreneurs certain areas. For example, pager company. So if you started a business in maybe making pagers, but mobile phones came and market got killed, but you can always align yourself and get into a different. So there are entrepreneurs who are serial entrepreneurs, right? So so it's the marathon, and that's the message you must take from my talk. And with that, I thank you for your time. And I will see if there are any questions. I will be very happy to get.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for enlightening our students on IP and innovation. You also talked about opportunities available for entrepreneurs in a digital enabled world. It's a very, very informative information and lecture. I'm also very thankful to ICT Academy for bringing you such a high-tech personality, Ms. Anvita Bajpai, on board. Now I request Dr. Meeru Sehgal to formally say thanks to our guest.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible, Dr. Meenu?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
All right. A very good afternoon, distinguished speakers, distinguished guests, Principal Dr. Rajesh Sharma ji, faculty members, and dear students. Industry and academia interface goes a long way in stimulating the students to think along the lines of innovation and entrepreneurship. To be job providers and not job seekers is where the shift is going to be. On that note, on behalf of the department, I would like to thank Shri Kumar Swamy for tracing out the path for initiating startups, highlighting their share in the industry, and a SWOT analysis of startups and innovation in the ecosystem. This would definitely help students where they can focus on while initiating their own startup. Thank you, sir, for an immensely powerful talk on entrepreneurship and ecosystem. I would also like to thank Ms. Anvita Bajpai, ma'am, the elaboration on key skills required to run a business in terms of business strategy, product management, pricing, and law would be immensely beneficial to the participants. Then also an insight to have a risk appetite in order to earn returns is worth mentioning in the context of venturing into one's own enterprise. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, sir. This is an immensely powerful session where these participants are going to benefit, and especially in the light of the current scenario of our education system, where it is being highlighted that enterprise, their own enterprise, should be where everyone, all the students should be focusing on. So thank you again. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Thank you, ICT Academy, for enlightening the students with the wonderful speakers. My personal thanks to Ma'am Anvita Bajpayee ji and Shri Kumara Swami ji for their enlightening words. Now it's time to welcome the special person of the seminar, our chief guest, Dr. Abhishek Jain ji, IAS officer, director, census operations and the citizen registration, Punjab and Chandigarh, Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India, and along with our president, sir, GGDSD College Society, for enlightening the words, for enlightening with their words to our students. Before I go further, I would like to give a brief profile of today's special chief guest, Dr. Abhishek Jain, a personality of many accomplishments. First of all, I must say, an IAS officer of Himachal Pradesh cadre, a very senior officer, 2002 batch, presently working as Director, Census Operations and Citizen Registrations in Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India, looking after Punjab and Chandigarh states. Sir has worked as Secretary Education, Commissioner Industries, Special Secretary Industries, Labor and Employment, Deputy Commissioner cum District Magistrate of Kullu, Hamirpur and Una districts, Director Social Justice, Labor Commissioner, and many more in the kitty. Definitely a wonderful experience would enlighten our students with his wonderful and kind words. Dr. Jain is a PhD in economics, Master of International Development Policy from Duke University, USA, Fellow Company Secretary, Masters in Economics, Postgraduate Diploma in Rural Development, Bachelor's in Commerce, and that too with the gold medal, and Micro Masters in Development Economics from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, USA. Having won many gold medals in his IAS training at Missouri. Apart from these, Sir is a 3 times world champion in speed typing and computers. So holds the world record of being the youngest and fastest world typing champion in history. He is 12 times national champion in English, Punjabi and Hindi typing. Sir's name feature in Limca Book of World Records, a recipient of Punjab Ratan, Punjab Shiromani, Pride of India, Himachal Shri Award, and many more in his kitty. Dr. Jain takes keen interest in academics and research activity. That's the reason. Thank you, sir. You have been providing your valuable time. I came to know my principal, sir, that you have just came from Delhi after finishing an assignment and readily available on our request. I'm really thankful on behalf of SD College. Sir has published 50 papers in leading national and international journals and first ever census handbook for district collectors and commissioners. He is a regular speaker at premier institutes like IS Academy, Missouri. He has delivered lectures in more than 40 international and national conferences and workshops. He has spoken at prestigious places, including at Harvard University, Chicago, and Duke. As Commissioner Industries, Special Secretary Industries, and Director Employment Himachal Pradesh, he was involved with promoting entrepreneurship and startups in Himachal with role in policy formulation and implementation as well. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. And definitely our students are going to learn a lot from your wisdom. Now, it's the time that President, sir, GGDSD College Society, I would take the opportunity to request him to grace the occasion with his kind words. President, sir, over to you. Thank you, sir.
And welcome to Dr. Jain for having agreed to address this session. We in GGDSC College for a long time has been encouraging our students to take up studies, along with the studies, get into the practical side of life and develop themselves to face the world with innovations, with sometimes startups, and our endeavor has been always to give job-oriented uh, uh, teaching and learning process. That's how very many people from our college have become famous entrepreneurs and are doing well. This seminar and webinar, which is organized with the ICT, I am sure will benefit our students and go a long way in our endeavor towards making our students job worthy and taking up innovative process to become good entrepreneur. With this, I wish good luck to everybody and good wishes to all for the successful seminar today. Thank you very much.
Thank
So before we invite Dr. Abhishek Jain to deliberate on the issue, I will just inform the students that he is having a number of Guinness Book of World Record in the typing. When I was in my studies and I was doing it, he was just a junior class. He joined there, and our teacher was introducing him in every class that he is one who has broken the world record and Guinness Book of World Record. And we come closer at that time in the DAV College Jalandhar, and I know wherever he go, he has established a new records. Whether it was having a gold medal in BCom or it is a gold medal in MA Economics, topping in the IS examination, doing MBA from the Duke University, having company secretary, and he was also one of the participant in the number of program we held at the ICSS, the other Institute of Company Secretary chapter here. And I know that recently he has done the great work which was introduced in Vigyan Bhavan a day before by Home Secretary, and it was a big function where all the deputy commissioner from the entire India was participant, having the background of the finance, commerce, and then company secretary. He has created a niche for himself. He is one of the most sought after officer in Ministry of the Home Affairs. And in Himachal, when he was doing it, along with the work he has done from the Ministry of Industry and Education, he has also done a number of social surveys by guiding the student in career development. I knew that more than 5,000 students he has personally counseled in the career development area. Sir, we welcome you to our college again, and I know the student will be getting a lot of benefit from your experience. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you, Principal Sir, for creating a pitch for Sir's welcome. Before I invite Sir, I must thank to the President GGDSD College Society, President Sir, for kind words, and I'm very thankful. And because this is President Sir's vision to take the student to the knowledge path and giving the students a wonderful entrepreneurial journey. And along with similar lines, Principal Sir has also been very keen. Now, Sir, we will be requesting you to guide our students with your rich plethora of knowledge. Over to you, Sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay. So, सभी को नमस्कार. First of all, Shri Upkar Krishan Sharma ji, the president of the Goswami Ganesh Dutt Sanatan Dharam College, Dr. Ajay Sharma, respected principal of GGDS College, and my good old friend. Other distinguished guests for the occasion, Shri Kumara Swamiji, Anvita Bajpai, Ashutosh Kothari, Akshat Agarwal, Murugesh Kumar, Ankit Bhatia, and Dr. Vaibhav, all the senior faculty of this prestigious college of Chandigarh, and all the participants of the webinar and seminar, all the students, faculty members, and my dear colleagues and ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to place on record my thanks and gratitude to Dr. Ajay for giving me this opportunity to be present with you, and to the president of this reputed college, Shri Upkar Krishan Sharma ji, that I am able to speak. I had just reached 5 minutes before from Delhi after a 2 days conference in Vigyan Bhavan. And I'm really grateful to all the speakers, and especially Dr. Ajay and the host who gave such a generous introduction of mine. I do not deserve that. These high profile words, but I'm grateful for all your love and affection. And I am really thankful कि आपने मुझे आज यहाँ पर बुलाया है और I'm able to share a few of my ideas with you. First of all, I would like to congratulate the organizers of this event. I would have loved to attend this kind of a conference physically, because you don't get the kind of wavelength and warmth in a digital platform, though that's the compulsion post-COVID. But still, I must congratulate all the organizers that they have thought of this kind of an activity for the young students of the college, because I believe most of the participants of this webinar are the college students, the undergrad and graduate and postgraduate students, and the faculty members. And I'm very happy that they have chosen a very important topic. I am thrilled that a virtual seminar on entrepreneurship ecosystem is being organized. That's some kind of a very rare this thing. And when I was coming from Delhi, because last 2 days I was attending that conference, and like Dr. Ajay said, and I'm happy to share that for the first time in the census history of the last 150 years, we have been able to create a handbook for all the senior officers, including the collectors, commissioners, the tehsildars, and this the book on handbook on census of India 2021, handbook for principal census officers, district census officers, and charge officers, which has been written by a committee which was chaired by me, and I was the principal author. So this handbook and book was released by the Union Home Secretary in the presence of the Census Commissioner of India and so many other officers just day before yesterday. It is available on the Census of India website, so maybe some of you would like to go through and give some thought on that. But I was thinking that for organizing a seminar for the college students for on the topic of entrepreneurship is a very useful and relevant contribution by the college authorities. I can relate to this topic because not only I have the academic background, having done my PhD, and including when I was doing my master's in international development policy from Duke University, USA. I especially took up a course on entrepreneurship. Then I had the opportunity of visiting so many places which are considered the hub of entrepreneurship, including the Silicon Valley in San Francisco, and other top shot places in New York and Washington. Had a chance to go to the World Bank and the IMF. And then when I couple them with my field level experiences as the director and commissioner industries in a nearby state, Himachal Pradesh, and I also worked as a special secretary industries and labor, and also labor commissioner. So maybe whatever because I have not prepared anything, no presentation, no PPT, because I feel that if I am able to convey my ideas directly to the students, that should be a useful contribution. And I think क्योंकि students हैं तो I'll not just be speaking two way. I'll speak a little bit and then I would like to have some interaction. और मैं हिंदी इंग्लिश दोनों में बात करूँ. Is it okay or I should speak only in English? Dr. Ajay or anyone? Should it be just English or I should use both? Pardon?
You can, as per your will.
Okay. So see, now we are changing through, we are passing through a very, very different world. To observe the latest world reports on the World Development Reports, if you see the World Development Report or the report called the Fourth Revolution, published by the World Bank and other institutions, including the ILO. So we observe that the times are changing very, very fast. कहीं पे भी आप देखें तो जो चीज पिछले शायद आजादी के बाद 70 सालों में इंडिया में हुई होगी या वर्ल्ड में हुई होगी, शायद उतनी टेक्नोलॉजिकल और दूसरी इनोवेशंस और रेवोल्यूशंस शायद अगले 10-15 साल में वो पिछले 70 साल को ओवर रूल कर जाए. और इस टाइम के सिनेरियो में व्हेन वी आर लुकिंग एट एन इकोनॉमी, बट वी आर आल्सो लुकिंग एट एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी. नाउ फॉर एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी मोस्ट ऑफ द यंग पीपल जो हमारे स्टूडेंट्स हैं, we look for the paid jobs or the salaried jobs. और salaried jobs जो है वो या तो गवर्नमेंट सेक्टर में होती है या प्राइवेट सेक्टर में होती है. गवर्नमेंट सेक्टर में भी अगर हम ट्रेंड देखें तो the trends are changing. Trends are not towards regular employment these days. They are towards either outsourcing or it is through contracting for some time. These kinds of jobs are happening. We see the private sector, of course, private sector with the Indian economy flourishing. Private sector is a very positive sign for the economy and for the country. However, if we see the number of the young people who are joining the labor market, who are joining the markets, who are willing to be employed, vis-a-vis the supply, I mean, if we see the demand and supply of manpower, so the demand is lagging behind the supply. We say so many crore people, young students are joining the markets, but there are no jobs. So if there are no jobs in the paid sector or in the formal sector or informal sector, why not to look towards self-employment or the or the entrepreneurship? And हम सभी जानते हैं कि भी हमारी जो थिंकिंग होती है वो कई बार ये होती है कि एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप का मतलब है कि अरे जिसके पास बिजनेस फैमिली है वो बिजनेस वाले ने आगे बढ़ाना है, या किसी ने छोटा मोटा कोई आजकल जो है वो स्टार्टअप वगैरह करना है. आई वुड लाइक टू एनकरेज ऑल माय स्टूडेंट्स, all the students who are listening, that rather than seeking job, we should be giving jobs. We should equip and make ourselves capable कि हम जॉब मांगने की बजाय हम लोगों को जॉब दें. And somehow, maybe because of our systems or because of our educational profiles, somehow we feel that paid jobs is our first choice. However, if you see the trends over the different countries, especially the United States and Europe and other countries, there the students do not see entrepreneurship as the second alternative. They see it as a first alternative. And we have so many examples across the world of the top most successful businessmen who probably are the college dropouts. You take examples of so many people, including Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and so many other people, जो entrepreneurship को उन्होंने अपने college time से ही इतना ज़्यादा focus किया. तो मैं सबसे पहली चीज तो यही कहना चाहूंगा, बिकॉज हैविंग वर्कड एज डायरेक्टर एम्प्लॉयमेंट एंड कमिश्नर इंडस्ट्रीज एंड लेबर कमिश्नर की जॉब्स जो है वो कम है, बट एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप में पोटेंशियल्स आर अनलिमिटेड एंड वी शुड नॉट रिस्ट्रिक्ट आवरसेल्व्स टू द ट्रेडिशनल सेक्टर्स कि अच्छा इन चीजों में ही होती है. आजकल मैं समझता हूँ अगर किसी भी यंग व्यक्ति को, किसी भी यंग माइंड को कुछ करने की इच्छा शक्ति हो तो पैसे या कोई भी और संसाधन कभी भी कमी नहीं नजर आएगा. Money or any other infrastructure will never be a hindrance if somebody wants to do something in entrepreneurship. Because of so many schemes of the Government of India as well as the state government, as well as so many other programs, if you want to do something, you can do. Maybe this was not the system in 20 or 30 years before, but now so many schemes are there, whether they are in the startups or in the small scale sector or the skill development sector. And I would encourage all my fellow youngsters to go through the websites of so many ministries, especially the Ministry of the Skill Employment, the Ministry of the Higher Education, Industry and Entrepreneurship. कि वहां पे जो जो स्कीम्स हैं, बिकॉज इवन इन गवर्नमेंट वी फील कि जेन्युइन जो बेनिफिशियरीज हैं वहां तक कई बार गवर्नमेंट की स्कीम्स नहीं पहुंच पाती हैं और जो चाहते हैं वो उसका फायदा नहीं उठा पाते. इसके साथ ही मैं दो तीन चीजें जो है वो और बोलना चाहूंगा, एंड देन आई वुड नॉट लाइक टू स्पीक मच एंड आई वुड लाइक टू हैव मेबी इंटरेक्शंस एंड देयर वी कैन एक्सचेंज आवर आइडियाज. एंड दैट नंबर वन इज के emerging sectors और future sectors की तरफ फोकस करना पड़ेगा. क्योंकि जैसे हम सभी जानते हैं कि because of the new technologies and technological revolutions and the artificial intelligence, the automation, जितने हमारे ट्रेडिशनल जॉब्स हैं वो ऑलमोस्ट 50-60% जो है वो अगले शायद 5 साल में ही आउटडेटेड हो जाएंगे. We are seeing a trend of replacement of human power with robots and so many artificial intelligence and other things. Similarly, because of the reach of the data and the technology up to the grassroots level, we are observing a complete transformation in governance paradigm. That now the governance has become absolutely different with the technological interventions. Where sitting in Delhi, any ministry or any bank or anyone can reach directly the beneficiaries. So in this kind of scenario, we should not look just at the traditional sector कि अच्छा industry होती है या service sector होता है. We should look for the new opportunities which have scope in the next 10 to 20 years at least. We should look for the service sectors. We should look for those areas, especially जो geographically हमारे यहाँ पे well connected हैं. For instance, we are in Chandigarh. So हम उन चीजों की देखें, because we have observed that many times the out migration of our youth is also a hindrance, or they are not as encouraging. I used to observe जब मैं हिमाचल में था कि कई लोगों को हम हिमाचल से जॉब के लिए बद्दी भेजते थे, because बद्दी में most of the industries are located. Many people were even not keen to come even to Batti from other district in Himachal. तो एक स्टेट के अंदर भी जाने से कतराते थे. कई लोग ऐसे बोलते थे कि सर आप हमें चंडीगढ़ में अगर 25,000 की जॉब लगा रहे हैं, बद्दी में 15,000 की जॉब लगा रहे हैं, तो आप हमारे को घर पे 10,000 की जॉब लगा दो, 8,000 की लगा दो, हमें वो कर लेंगे, चंडीगढ़ नहीं जाएंगे. अगर चंडीगढ़ नहीं जाते, सो दिल्ली, हैदराबाद, बैंगलोर, गुड़गांव, वहां पे कई बार प्रॉब्लम्स होती है. So therefore we should also look at that what are the sectors where the regional advantage is there because of the geographical location. Because every area has different things. So we can, in the north at Chandigarh, we have states like Himachal, Punjab, Haryana, Jammu Kashmir. We should look for those kind of sectors also for entrepreneurship. For instance, we should look for agro products, horticulture product, उनके साथ किस तरह का करना है, cold chain infrastructure, उनका value additions, and those areas where the northern states have an advantage. Then I would also encourage the youngsters should try to use the technology to the maximum extent. आज का time technology का है, और हमारे youngsters, and I am very sure because I know from my personal discussions with Principal Dr. Ajay, who himself and I must congratulate the college authorities कि उन्होंने एक बहुत ही learned और बहुत ही अच्छे व्यक्ति को जो है वो college principal बनाया है, and I am very sure that under his leadership along with the management the college would gain newer and newer heights. We should encourage our youngsters to to innovate and even to fail. Because generally ये हमारा observation होती है, अरे कुछ करोगे गलत हो गया तो क्या होगा, फेल हो गया तो क्या हो गया. But unless until somebody has the liberty in the mind कि अगर हम फेल भी हो जाएंगे तो कोई बात नहीं, अगर हमारा लाख 2 लाख 5 लाख रुपए डूब भी गया तो कोई बात नहीं, बिकॉज हर चीज जो है वो सक्सेसफुल होके पहली बार में नहीं निकलती है. तो इसलिए जो है वो हमें यंगस्टर्स को एक एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप की लत लगानी चाहिए, उनको आदत डालनी चाहिए दैट यस यू शुड डू, और दे शुड डू नॉट इन दी जिसे बोलते हैं घिसे पिटे सेक्टर्स जो आज से 10-20 साल पुराने चलते आ रहे हैं. दे शुड लुक फॉर द फ्यूचर एंड दे शुड इनोवेट. इनोवेशन इज द की. वी ऑल नो जब तक इनोवेशन नहीं होगी समथिंग न्यू, और आज के समय में कोई भी ऐसा सेक्टर नहीं है जिसमें इनोवेशन का पोटेंशियल नहीं है, टेक्नोलॉजी इंप्लीमेंटेशन का पोटेंशियल. वी शुड ट्राई टू थिंक कि किस तरह हम लोगों की लाइफ्स को इजी करें. अब आज से 10 साल पहले शायद किसी ने जोमेटो और ये जो फूड डिलीवरी वाले इस तरह की चीजें हैं वो नहीं सोची होंगी. इवन इन द वर्ल्ड वी सी द टॉप मोस्ट लाइक उबर है या दूसरी चीजें हैं. सो दे केम फ्रॉम द इनोवेशन. Next, I would like to say to the college students, my young colleagues, that they should inculcate the habit of reading and listening more. क्योंकि जब तक आपको नए आइडियाज नहीं आएंगे. I remember even my college times and other times, my teachers used to say that if you have to write one good page, even one page you have to write, you should read at least 100 pages. You might be able to write one good page. If you have to speak for say 10 minutes, maybe you might have to listen for 10 hours, and then you might be able to speak for 10 minutes. So I will encourage my young fellows that they should try to read more, learn more. Reading is not just book. Nowadays you have options of internet, of Google, and everything is available digitally also. Please सुनिए, और जो भी टॉप क्लास है, टेड टॉक्स होती हैं वो सुनिए, अपने इंटरनेशनल जो टॉप चीजें हैं. और मैं सबसे यही कहूंगा, जैसे डॉक्टर एपीजे अब्दुल कलाम जी भी कहते थे, और आई हैड द प्रिविलेज ऑफ स्पेंडिंग टाइम विद हिम व्हेन आई वाज कलेक्टर, कि आपकी थॉट्स जो है वो ऊंची होनी चाहिए. यू शुड नॉट रिस्ट्रिक्ट, अरे ये कैसे है, ये कैसे होगा, ये क्या पॉसिबल है या नहीं होगा. एवरीथिंग इज पॉसिबल इफ यू ड्रीम एंड इफ यू प्रिपेयर. सो मैं 2-3 चीजें ही कह के अपनी बात को खत्म करूंगा. वन इज दैट एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप इज द फ्यूचर बिकॉज ऑफ द ह्यूज पोटेंशियल्स इन द इंडियन इकोनॉमी एंड द वर्ल्ड ओवर. नंबर 2, we should see entrepreneurship as a full-time avocation, full-time work, not a hobby, but a full-time job, a serious job. Number 3, we should use the technology to the maximum extent. We should encourage our young students to innovate, to experiment, and even to fail. And the next thing is that there is no dearth of funds or the money or the capital for any kind of entrepreneurship activity. Banks हैं, बहुत सारी गवर्नमेंट की योजनाएं हैं, तो सभी का आप लाभ उठा सकते हैं. And I would also encourage the college authorities that they should have some sort of a regular interaction with the students, with a kind of mentoring and the nurturing and the coordination with the external stakeholders, including the government departments. कि भी कोई बच्चा कुछ करना चाहता है, आप उसको गाइड करें कि वो किस तरह प्रिपेयर करे, और उसके बाद अगर उसको फंडिंग की जरूरत है, उसको टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफर की जरूरत है, तो उसके लिए भी उनको मेंटरिंग करें, उनको एसोसिएट करें. From my level, I can assure that if anybody would like to receive any kind of help in terms of guidance or in terms of some networking or in terms of interaction with some external agency, banks है या government schemes है, I would be very happy. And we would like कि हमारे चंडीगढ़ से, इस कॉलेज से जिसने बहुत अच्छे luminaries पैदा किए हैं, वहां से हमारे टॉप शॉट्स जो हैं वो एंटरप्रेन्योर्स निकले. So with these few words, I once again congratulate all the organizers, Principal Dr. Ajay and Dr. Yashpal Taneja and the chairman of the committee that उन्होंने ये सोचा कि हम अपने यंग स्टूडेंट्स के लिए इस तरह के टॉपिक के ऊपर एक टॉक कराएं. मुझे केवल कल इसके लिए इनविटेशन मिला एंड आई सेड आई वुड लव टू डू दिस. अगर मेरी इंटरेक्शन से, मेरी प्रेजेंस से कुछ बच्चे मोटिवेट हो सकते हों. And I'll say the last word is that everything is possible in the world. Everything is possible in the world. मे बी आप में से ही कल को कोई जो है वो एलन मस्क निकल जाए, या मार्क जुकरबर्ग निकल जाए, या बिल गेट्स निकल जाए, या कोई सत्या नडेला निकल जाए. एंड वी इंडियंस हैव ह्यूज पोटेंशियल्स. मैं आप सबको ये बोलना चाहता हूँ, कई बार हम लगता है कि भाई हमें इंडियंस तो, हम तो फॉरेनर्स के मुकाबले थोड़ा पीछे होते हैं. मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूँ, क्योंकि मैं 1 साल खुद अमेरिका में मास्टर्स डिग्री के लिए भी रहा हूँ. उसके अलावा टॉप यूनिवर्सिटीज में इंक्लूडिंग हार्वर्ड, शिकागो, ड्यूक में मैंने लेक्चर्स भी दिए, और बहुत जगह पे अराउंड 20 कंट्रीज आई हैव विजिटेड. दैट इंडियंस को और उनके इंटेलेक्ट को पूरी दुनिया जो है वो रिस्पेक्ट करती है. यूएस में टॉप साइंटिस्ट, टॉप इंजीनियर्स, टॉप डॉक्टर्स, टॉप डेंटिस्ट, टॉप आईटी गाइज आर इंडियंस. And whenever they say something is being spoken by an Indian, they respect them because they know कि इन लोगों को पता है कि हवा में बातें नहीं करते. और इनका इंटेलेक्ट जो है आज की डेट में, अगर अमेरिका से इंडियंस आ जाए तो पता नहीं क्या होगा उस कंट्री में. तो एंटायर सिलिकॉन वैली माइट कोलैप्स. तो मैं ये सभी को कहना चाहता हूँ कि हम सब में बहुत पोटेंशियल है, और बहुत अच्छा जो रखा है द एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप इकोसिस्टम. वी नीड टू आल्सो क्रिएट एन इकोसिस्टम, बिकॉज कई बार बच्चों में पोटेंशियल होता है, बट दे डोंट गेट द काइंड ऑफ सपोर्ट एंड गाइडेंस एंड अदर लॉजिस्टिक्स. तो उसके लिए भी जो है वो हमें अलग अलग स्टेक होल्डर्स को, कॉलेज अथॉरिटीज को, इंडस्ट्रीज इंटरेक्शन के साथ, गवर्नमेंट ऑफिसर्स, मीडिया, प्राइवेट सेक्टर, सभी को साथ में लेके चलना है. और अगर हम कोई चीज मन में ठान लें तो दुनिया में कोई भी चीज असंभव नहीं है. द ओनली थिंग वी रिक्वायर इज डिटर्मिनेशन, हार्ड वर्क एंड परसिवियरेंस. नथिंग इज इम्पॉसिबल इन द वर्ल्ड. आपको लगता होगा कि ये तो बहुत जगह हम हर लेक्चर में इस तरह की चीजें बोलते रहते हैं, बट आई कैन स्पीक फ्रॉम माय, जब मैं स्कूल कॉलेज में था, आई वुड हैव नेवर इमेजिन्ड दैट आई माइट स्पीक इन अ प्लेस लाइक हार्वर्ड, which is considered the number 1 university in the world. इसमें सोचा था. Everything is possible. So यही मैं सभी अपने colleagues को बोलना चाहता हूँ, मेरे students के साथ हैं. Everything is possible in the world. You just need 3 things. One is determination. आपको determination होनी चाहिए कि yes, कुछ भी हो जाए, कोई भी problem आए, कोई भी संकट आए, कोई भी विपत्ति हो, मैं गरीब हूँ, अमीर हूँ, स्कूल में पढ़ता हूँ, कॉलेज में पढ़ता हूँ, इंग्लिश मीडियम हूँ, हिंदी मीडियम हूँ, रूरल एरियाज में हूँ, मेरे पास पैसे नहीं है, मेरे पास कंप्यूटर नहीं है, मेरे पास लैपटॉप नहीं है, मेरे को अंग्रेजी नहीं आती, मेरे पेरेंट्स एजुकेटेड नहीं है, मैं गांव में रहता हूँ, ये सब बहुत छोटी चीजें हैं. अगर आपको कुछ करने की इच्छा शक्ति है, डिटर्मिनेशन है, ये सब चीजें जो है वो पीछे हो जाएंगी. आई हैव स्टडीड इन अ पंजाबी मीडियम स्कूल. I have not studied in any convent schools. I have not attended any tuitions in my life. I have not taken any coaching in my life. I have not gone to this thing, and I belong to a normal middle class family. I have whatever I could achieve, everything I have got in my first attempt without any सिफारिश or money. So एक तो determination हो, दूसरा है hard work. Determination के साथ hard work, and sometimes I see, because in the last 20 years of my experience as a senior IAS officer, I observe. अभी मैंने पीछे अपने ऑफिस में भी काफी रिक्रूटमेंट्स की थी, कुछ आपके कॉलेज के भी यंगस्टर्स को मैंने रिक्रूट किया. Sometimes I observe कि आज की डेट में जो है वो बच्चे मेहनत करने से कतराते हैं, या जितनी चाहिए उनको लगता है थोड़ी सी करो उतने में रिजल्ट मिल जाए, या दे वांट एवरीथिंग क्विक रिजल्ट. क्योंकि जैसे आज के 2020 का होता है ना कि हर चीज जो है वो 2020 की तरह होनी चाहिए. But life is not 2020. Life is one day match also, and life is sometimes test match also. So you have to work hard to achieve. So hard work करें इस पे डायरेक्शन में. And third thing is perseverance. कि आप डिटर्मिनेशन भी है, हार्ड वर्क भी है, और परसिवियरेंस आप रखें. ओके, मैंने ये एक नया बिजनेस खोलना है, मैंने एंटरप्रेन्योर बनना है, मैंने ये फैक्ट्री करनी है, मैंने ये नया आइडिया लेके चलना है, मैंने कोई नया ऐप बनाना है. तो मेरी डिटर्मिनेशन भी है, हार्ड वर्क भी है, और परसिवियरेंस, बिकॉज हर चीज एक दिन में नहीं होगी. Probably it might take 1 year, it might take 2 years, it might take 3 years. हो सकता है शुरू में वो फेल हो. Recently, I studied the biographies of all the important. I keep reading. I read biographies of Steve Jobs, of Bill Gates, of Elon Musk, आपके Uber वाले, बहुत सारे लोग, और सभी का जो है वो लाइफ का आप देखिए तो मेजोरिटी का आता है कि शुरू में तो वो फेल होते थे, and nobody gave them a genuine chance that they will be the global leaders in entrepreneurship and in terms of innovation. So you need to keep that kind of a perseverance that yes, challenges आएंगे, हो सकता है शुरू में सब लोग मजाक उड़ाएं, हो सकता है सब बोलें अरे ये कोई आइडिया है, तो थोड़ी हो सकता है, ये तो बेवकूफ है, ये क्या बात कर रहा है, ऐसे पॉसिबल नहीं होता है। हो सकता है आपको लगे अरे मेरा आइडिया जो है वो सक्सीड नहीं करेगा, अरे मेरे को पैसे नहीं मिल रहे हैं, मेरे को जगह नहीं मिल रही है, मेरे को सपोर्ट नहीं मिल रही है, बट you need to keep your perseverance and you need to keep like the other day I was reading about Uber, तो उन्होंने बोला कि जब Uber का वो स्टार्ट किया तो दे सेड कि उसका बिल्कुल कोई स्कोप ही नहीं था कि जो ट्रेडिशनल टैक्सी मार्केट होती है इन द वर्ल्ड वो उसको चैलेंज कर पाएंगे, बट दे हैड दिस थिंग दैट वी नीड टू गिव बेटर सर्विसेज टू द ट्रैवलर्स एंड कस्टमर्स, और अल्टीमेटली आप देखिए कि आज की डेट में उबर जो है वो नॉर्मल टैक्सी यूनियंस और टैक्सीज को किस तरह ओवर रूल कर चुका है। So with these words, I again thank all the authorities and I'm thankful to the other persons who have patiently heard me, and I hope that this webinar would be a milestone in the student life of our young colleagues. और आजकल तो स्टूडेंट नहीं होते हैं, आजकल स्टूडेंट्स आर लाइक फ्रेंड्स, क्योंकि हमारे टीचर्स भी इतने यंग हैं। आप देखिए आपके सभी जितने कॉलेज प्रोफेसर्स एंड प्रिंसिपल हैं, दे आर थोड़े से साल का ऊपर नीचे है with the, so they are just like friends. So with the informal relationship also we can get so many results. So with these words I again thank all of you and I hope that आप जो है वो नई नई अचीवमेंट करें, और किसी भी समय कभी भी मेरे लायक कोई भी चीज अगर मैं कर सकता हूँ इन योर career or anything, I would be extremely happy. And now I would request and anticipate that you may ask me some question or any interaction or doubt or whatever, or anything you would like to say. Thank you so much, and I am really obliged and thankful to the organizers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you from core of my heart for enlightening our students about the role of entrepreneurship. Thank you, sir, for motivating our students to start up their own venture through their skills. Thanks, sir, for encouraging our students for skill development. You also emphasized that instead of depending upon the jobs, you should create your own employment opportunities. Really thankful for your precious time and your encouraging words. Now, I would like to invite Principal, sir, to formally welcome our chief guest.
So, Dr. Abhishek, thanks a lot for sparing the time. And it is a great motivational for all of us, whether it's faculty member or students. And I will request you again soon to visit our business school. We have just started up the business school and it is coming up very well. And with your expertise, we will like the interaction in physical mode to our postgraduate students. And hopefully we will be contacting you again very soon.
I would love to attend that, and I am available whenever you invite me. I will be too happy to attend.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. And if there is any question, you can write the students in a chat box, and otherwise we will carry on with the next program. Dr. Abhishek is living very close, Dr. Yashpal, to our college campus, and let's organize something in physical mode also.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's
Definitely.
living just 40, adjoining sector 46. So
Okay.
we should have the maximum advantage of his presence here.
Sir,
Thank you,
we
sir.
will be,
Madam, is there any question from
yeah, just in a Dr. Ajay, just in a lighter mode, I have recently been promoted as Joint Secretary Government of India. So I don't know how long I will continue in Chandigarh, because Chandigarh में ये senior position की Joint Secretary की post नहीं है.
Okay.
So Delhi से आना मुश्किल होगा, तो जब तक मैं यहाँ पे हूँ जो कराना है करा लीजिए. उसके बाद
Thank
Delhi
you,
से
sir.
ministry में
Thanks a
आना
lot.
मुश्किल हो जाएगा.
No problem, no problem. हाँ जी, madam, is there any question?
एक पूछ लो.
Thank you so much, sir.
So
Dr.
last
Abhishek.
last word, sir. We have started up with the incubation center also in the college, which is in affiliation with the Ministry of Technical Education, AICT. They have established the institutional innovation councils throughout India, and our college was the first one to start up here in the Chandigarh, and we are organizing a number of programs there. Now we will be soon launching our proper innovation council platform also, where co-working space we have planned to give to the students. So we will remain in touch and seek your blessings also. Thank you.
I think there is
Thank you so
one
much, sir.
observation or comment which has come from Gaurav Gaba. We can become both IAS with entrepreneur. Of course, मैं तो समझता हूँ कि IAS जो है वो खुद ही entrepreneur है. Because there is no distinction. Entrepreneur भी कुछ करते हैं, IAS भी entrepreneurship and leadership करते हैं. We can do both. Because in the civil services or IAS, we get the opportunity to do so many new things, innovations. और हम एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप कर सकते हैं. जस्ट मैं आपको एक छोटी सी एग्जांपल बताता हूँ. वैसे भी लंच के आसपास का टाइम हो रहा है, तो लाइट वे में आई वाज अ डिप्टी कमिश्नर इन कुल्लू मनाली. कुल्लू आपने सुना होगा, बहुत सारे लोग आप कुल्लू मनाली घूमने गए होंगे. और वहां पे मैं डीसी था आज से 14 साल पहले. तो वहां पे एक ट्रेडिशनल जो है वो हमारी एक हिमाचल में डिश होती है जिसको कहा जाता है सिड्डू. तो सिड्डू, आई डोंट नो कितना आपने सुना होगा, मे बी सम ऑफ यू इज फ्रॉम हिमाचल. सो सिड्डू इज जस्ट लाइक जैसे ये भटूरा होता है या वो होता है, तो नॉन ऑयली और नॉन फ्राइड टाइप का होता है. इट इज वेरी गुड एंड वेरी हेल्दी. तो वो उस टाइप के वहां के सोशल और जो महिला मंडल वगैरह ये बनाते थे और लोकल लोग खाते थे. As a DC, what we did was we commercialized it. और वहां पे कुल्लू दशहरा एक बहुत बड़ा फेस्टिवल होता है, आई थिंक आप लोगों ने सुना होगा. तो वहां पे हमने एज जिसे मैं एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप के साथ लिंक कर रहा हूँ, तो हमने जितने भी महिला मंडल, युवक मंडल और ये जितने सोशल ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस थे, हमने सभी के लेडीज को इकट्ठा किया और हमने उनको बोला कि आप ये, क्योंकि फेस्टिवल 1 महीने चलता है और बहुत हजारों लाखों में आते हैं, तो आप प्रोफेशनली पूरे जिले के हर जगह से वो सिड्डू जो है वो अच्छे क्वालिटी के बनाइए और बेचिए. एंड वी प्रोवाइडेड देम स्पेस, वी गेव देम गुड पब्लिसिटी. और आप बिलीव नहीं करेंगे कि जो चीज की सेल शायद कुछ हजारों में होती थी, विद इन 1 ईयर, जस्ट इन 1 मंथ, केवल सिड्डू की सेल 1.5 करोड़ रुपए की हुई. 1.5 करोड़ रुपए की. और ये सारा पैसा कोई होटल वाले या रेस्टोरेंट वालों ने नहीं किया. स्मॉल विलेज पीपल, जो नॉर्मल हाउस होल्ड थे, महिला मंडल वाले थे, युवक मंडल वाले थे. तो आप देखिए कि किस तरह से हम जो है वो एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप को कहीं पे भी इंप्लीमेंट कर सकते हैं. एंड नाउ इट हैज बिकम अ रेगुलर फीचर. केवल एक, और वो जो एक सिड्डू है उसकी कॉस्ट होती है 20 रुपए या 25 रुपए. तो 20 रुपए वाली चीज कितनी बिकी होगी कि 1.5 करोड़ की सेल हुई. तो इस तरह से भी, इफ यू वांट, वी कैन डू एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप इन एवरीथिंग. कहीं पे भी हम किसी भी पोस्ट पे हैं, वी कैन डू दिस.
Thank you, sir. We will definitely be in touch with you in future. Thank you for your encouraging words.
Thank you.
Now I would like to invite one of our expert dignitary on board, Shri Murgesh Kumar SK, CEO and founder, ATM Sports. Murgesh sir has been an entrepreneur since 2011. His first company, Vision Agro Farms, was in the space of agriculture, was one of the pioneers of the agri space. After exiting Bison Agro in the year 2018, his interest and passion to change the sports industry in India inspired him to start ATM. ATM is the first sports tech startups in India, which focuses on the performance and coaching of athletes and sports teams to enable them to move towards high performance. ATM relies heavily on sports science and data science. Before Sir started his entrepreneurship journey, he worked for the financial industry handling corporate investment with leading asset management companies for 7 years. With these words, I would like to invite Sir for share our experiences with our listeners. Over to you, sir. Sir, sorry to interrupt you, sir. You are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah. So again, I mean, I'm Murgesh. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Am I audible now, Miss? I believe I'm audible, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes. I wish to share my screen. I have a presentation to present, but I'm not able to share my screen. It says that I need to open the system preference. Give me 1 minute's time. Let me try to set it up.
Sir, please check it out now. The rights have been given to you, sir. Please check out now, sir.
Yeah. Okay. It is asking me to join again. I'm joining again. Huh? Just give me a.
All right, sir.
Hello all.
Yes, sir.
I'm back again. I'm just trying to share my screen.
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yeah. Since I'm using the WebEx, I mean, say for the first time, I think I'm a little bit confused.
It's okay, sir. Please.
Yeah. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, your screen is visible, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
All right. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I am Murgesh. I'm the founder and CEO of ATM Sports. So we are building a technology in the area of sports. I will also talk about what we are building in the due course. So in the last 1 year, we have all seen a significant crisis, but we have survived the crisis. It's glad to be at this forum today. So crisis always gives us an opportunity. Having said that, I would like to take this thing forward, So I wish to keep my presentation short and open up for question answers so that in case if the participants have any questions, I would come forward and answer to the best of my capacity. So in today's talk, I'm going to cover upon innovation, the startups and the difference between the startup and the corporate, the technology as an innovation perspective itself, and the startup ecosystem broadly I will touch upon, because I also see that the people who are representing startup ecosystem is also going to give a talk in the due course, is what I'm understanding. The challenges which the startup faces, the challenges with the startups in India faces, or say what I face as a startup, and what are the mindset which an innovative startup needs to have to move ahead in times, is what we'll be talking today. So coming back to the point of what is innovation, all right? So we are all experiencing the highest rate of change in disruption, ambition, and opportunity, which we are seeing currently. The next decade will see more changes than the last 50 years for sure. Are we prepared for the level of change? Is one question which we need to ask ourselves. Since 2000, more than half the Fortune 500 companies have been displaced, and 40% will not be there in the next decade. That means in the next 10 years, we will see that 40% of the Fortune 500 companies will not exist at all. But if you are a creator, then this is the opportunity for us to take the opportunity and move ahead in times. So we are seeing unprecedented window of opportunities in all categories. So coming to innovation, what is innovation? Innovation refers to the process that begins with a novel idea and concludes with market introduction. So any opportunity which we try build upon should make commercial sense is when it is called as innovation itself. So what cannot be called as innovation? Invention itself cannot be called as innovation. So that means ideally, if we are inventing for the first time, if it doesn't make commercial sense, then it cannot be called as innovation. And at the same time, research also can't be called as an innovation. But however, I mean, as a company, we got to invest into research which can be commercialized to protect the future of the business itself. So now the interesting topic which we're going to talk about today, which is more exciting for me as an entrepreneur, is the disruptive innovation itself. So the architect of disruptive innovation is Professor Clay Christensen. So what he says is disruptive innovation is the process in which a smaller company, usually with fewer resources, is able to challenge the established businesses, that is the large businesses, by entering at the bottom of the market and continuing to move up market. This process usually happens over a number of steps. What could be the steps? So that's larger companies innovate and develop their products and services in order to appeal to most demanding or profitable customers. They usually tend to ignore the bottom of the pyramid or the down market itself. So the entrants target this ignored market segment and gain traction by meeting their needs at the reduced cost most of the times compared to what is offered by the larger companies. The incumbent, say that is the larger companies don't respond to these new entrants. They don't see the smaller companies as a threat itself, but say they still continue to focus on their more profitable segments. Entrants, so the smaller companies eventually move up market by offering solutions that appeal to the main companies, mainstream customers. So once the new entrance has begun to attract the incumbent or the larger businesses, mainstream customers, that is the larger businesses customers, that is when the disruption happens. So it cannot happen overnight. Of course, disruption is a process. So we got to be prepared to get there to solve the problems. So why is innovation prominent in startups? So usually the entrepreneurs, when they face strategic problems, those problems encourage them to build rapidly as a business itself. So that means that they are very agile. Superior entrepreneurial performance indicated by rapid growth shrinks the window of time between the startup creation and entry into the market itself. The larger corporates find it difficult to go to the market faster because they have their own criteria to meet up to. They have a large brand which they got to talk about, kind of things. But the startups need not be worried about that. So that gives them an opportunity. That way they're able to make faster decisions that will enable them to move forward. The window of time in which the entrepreneurs find opportunity is based on the lethargy of their rivals. That is, ideally, the larger corporates, most of the instances, they are too worried about protecting their own businesses and protecting the shareholders or the investors well. They need to report back to the investors saying that what all they have done. So that area itself will occupy most of the time than focusing towards innovation. But how would be the case? So this slide talks about the larger brands which we have all seen, which we all would be aware of. Maybe most of the youngsters might not have remembered these larger companies who were kind of pioneers in what they did. They were all admired brands. They brought in the latest of the technology at those point of time. But however, those technologies which they built themselves put them down. So when the larger companies, most of the Fortune 500 companies, if you ask, the read says 97% of the leaders in the Fortune 500 companies, the key priority for them is innovation. But most of the times we don't witness that or we don't see that. That is, they are held up with too much of their own work. So they fail to innovate, also they fail to think about the future. So not only that, they most of the times also try and put down or say people who try to innovate. So one example which I would like to quote is Nokia at that point of time when they had about 1 billion users across the world, and Android proposed to them to start using their OS. What the strategist of Nokia said? He said, switching to Android would be like, say, peeing in your own pants for warmth of the winter. They were trying to disgrace an innovative effort itself. So these were the reasons which piled up and brought these larger corporates down. But however, I mean, so the learnings from Nokia enabled Finland as a country to be more innovative, to invest more into research and development, which are set up parallel, wherein the inspiring countries take learning from Finland as a country itself. So coming back to startup versus corporates, the larger corporates in most cases find it difficult to innovate because of the structural managerial advantages. They are very large. They have hierarchies wherein which if somebody wants to innovate, they need to take approvals from the different hierarchies to lead and take it forward. Most of the cases, they don't want to do that because most of the team members who work for a larger corporation, they would be working to solve that one particular problem alone. So that becomes a challenge itself. The startup entrepreneurs can start the company, develop capabilities, bring product to the market really quickly, which the larger companies can't do. And this is the advantage which the startup has. The most important caveat is that with good deal and effort and time to meet the opportunity, the entrepreneurial ventures evolve into sustainable, growing, profitable businesses. So that is we got to put in right time, and hard work as well. So these are the significant differences between the startups and the larger corporates altogether. So coming back to the point of how technology has disrupted how we look at things, or say how we look at business opportunity itself. So I touched upon the point that the last 2 years has been kind of chaotic, and we have witnessed significant crisis. But we are all together. We are all, most of the initiations have been accomplished just because there is technology for us. So today I'm talking from the southern part of the country to all you guys. I'm able to share my learnings, or I'm able to present my thoughts that is enabled only through technology. So technology can solve most problems faced by humanity. Technology can enable to give back time to us. So, talking about disruptive technology, I would like to take a few examples of, say, or draw parallels between what was the case 20 years back and what is the case now. So 20 years back, if we had to hire a cab, we need to go to the taxi guy, we need to bargain. Then ideally that itself will be a very elongated process. We will be wasting most of our time. But now we can sit in our home, we can sit in our wherever the best comfort of our home, we can order a cab through Uber or Ola, wherein the cab comes to our home, it takes us, drops it at the place where we want exactly, and doesn't charge more or extra above whatever has been committed. So this has enabled us to get back time. That is, as a user standpoint, if you look at the technology is giving back time to the users. Similar with the case of Amazon or say Flipkart also, if you ask. So 20 years back, it was kind of most of the products which we see in a movie or say in a book, we didn't have access to that. But now, because of the technology and because of the connectivity which we have, we are able to get that on our doorstep itself. So innovation has to enable users' life become more efficient by making it simpler for the users to do, accomplish and move ahead in time. So that's what disruption or innovation is, and technology is the way out to get there. So coming back to the point of, I'll quickly touch upon what the startup ecosystem in India is compared to the rest of the world. In India, technically, if you see, there are about close to 520 incubators. It might be slightly outdated. It could be slightly more than that. But compared to China, which is again the second largest entrepreneurial ecosystem in the world, they have about 11,800 incubators, which is supporting 620,000 startups itself. So yes, when I started my business, say 10 years back, my first startup, it was not called the startups in India. It was called as business then. But however, we saw that the government started focusing towards startups because we as a country, we believe that if we need to move ahead in times or say scale the economy, we need to be investing or say grooming, motivating entrepreneurs to start up. So that way they'll be able to give employment opportunities to most of the people, and also at the same time enable to build products which will solve problems which the humanity is facing. So the next interesting thing is, so this slide was an interesting slide. I thought I'll just bring it to you so that you get inspired by what is happening across in the country itself. So in the last quarter itself, about 347 deals have happened. We witnessed about 34 unicorns in this country in this year itself. So when talking about unicorns, that is a company which is valued at about $1 billion. That is, in Indian terms, it has to be about 7,500 crores is the valuation when we call it as a unicorn. And our country has witnessed that significantly. And we are the third largest startup ecosystem in the world itself. So to give you a glimpse of what is the growth and the impact which the startup has created to the country, if you ask, like I said, we are the third largest startup ecosystem next to US and China. We are witnessing global investors' interest into the country. Now, in the recent past, we have seen that Chinese economy or the Chinese government has put in some threats towards the startups. So that has motivated the foreign investors or the global investors to look at India as an opportunity to invest itself. So that has given opportunities for Indian startups to raise investment significantly. So this will give you an insight of, say, what are the key changes which we have witnessed in the recent past. So again, coming back to the challenges which the startup ecosystem faces in the country, every day we see progress in the right direction, but still I would like to point out the challenges which as an entrepreneur I face as an entrepreneur and as a startup itself. So it is very difficult for us to identify the resources. So that is ideally most of the challenges which we face is most of our students who graduate out of the college, they would have a financial burden. They would be supported by education loans. So they would be hard pressed to take up a job to pay off that loans. So that doesn't inspire them or motivate them to take up risks in life. So that way it also becomes a challenge for the startups to recruit or say identify the key resources to work for us. But however, we need to figure a way out. We can't give up on those things. It is always the entrepreneur's responsibility to negotiate that, navigate that, and take things forward. The lack of risk-taking mindset among our ecosystem. Most of our parents wouldn't encourage us to start up immediately. The faster you get into a startup, the better it is for you to learn things, because any point of time, the learning needs to start. So the sooner you start, the better it is for you to learn and scale up from there. And again, the financing opportunities in India are slightly limited at this point of time. Say compared to the last 10 years, now it has increased. We are moving in the right direction. For sure, we will be able to see significant differences itself. So to give you an example of, say, where all we could look at improvising is, so to draw parallels between China and India, in China, most of the startups are funded by the larger businesses and the governments also. But wherein in case of India, larger businesses don't consider to invest into startups. That could be because we haven't established or say we haven't shown progress till date could be the reason. But now, or say, very soon we will see that the larger businesses will show interest towards investing into startups and ideas to take things forward. So the government investments or the government focus also needs to be there. In most of the instances, being an entrepreneur, it is also important that we need to be compliant. With regard to the taxation, with regard to the compliance, which will involve huge amount of time. But so far, we haven't witnessed any changes or say leverage or say leeway for the startups till date. Even though there are claims that there is too much of deviation, but say we still have to follow those. That has not come into practice as yet. So these are the challenges which we see as a startup in our Indian ecosystem. Having said that, say with all these challenges, how we got to take it forward is the mindset. We got to have a mindset that we won't give up, we will persist, and we will make it bigger. So the key mindsets for an innovative startup is we got to be ready to embrace restrictions. We will be facing challenges day in, day out. We got to be prepared to face those challenges, and we got to take it forward. We got to be ready to share the wealth with the key resources. If you see that, okay, our team is contributing significantly, we got to reward them. We need to be ready to give away part of the business to them, because that way they will be motivated and will be willing to support us during the times of whenever we are lean. All right, we need not necessarily use larger jargons when we are talking. Say that is the interesting thing of startup itself. You take decisions, you instantaneously communicate to the team. If the decision is shot down in the instance, you try to prove it right. If it is proven right, you take it forward as a product, then launch it in the market. So you have the agility, and you need to be prepared to fast track most of your initiation. Use the purpose-driven stories to get support from the team. Whenever the team feels low, you got to communicate to them why we came in as a team to build the product, or say what is the objective which we have as a startup or as a company to drive things forward. So these are the key mindset which I see that as a startup entrepreneur we got to perceive and persist to take things forward. So I think I've come to the final part of the session. I mean, I would like to give you a quick intro about what we as ATM Sports are building. You know, so ATM Sports is the first technology product company in India, which is in the area of sports tech. ATM will enable high performance solutions to the athletes and the sports teams. So how we achieve this is we simplify or break down sports science through technology, and our technology will enable collaboration between the teams. So that is ideally between the coach, the athlete, the support staff, which includes the medical staff, the physiotherapists, the nutritionists, everybody. So collectively, our product will enable the athletes of our country, not only our country, across the world, to move ahead in times. So we are at the stage currently. I've launched the product. We have users in our country. We have users outside the country as well who are using our platform. So that has given us a lot of motivation and inspiration to take things forward. So I would request, the participants of this meeting to follow us, to stay connected, to get updated about the progress which we are making through LinkedIn at ATM Sports page, and also through Instagram ATM Sports page. So that is the talk which I wanted to give today. I am ready to take up question answers at this point of time, if at all, if there's anything.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable time and sharing your experiences with us. Especially you discussed how ATM Sports inspired and how it started with the issues. Sir, there are so many queries, so many information students want to have, but because of shortage of time, I personally want to discuss one or two. Students want to ask, is there any mantra for success in the journey of entrepreneurship?
Well, me being an entrepreneur, I strongly believe that you got to persist. That will be the mantra, which if you call it as a mantra, that is the one thing which I see to succeed as an entrepreneur. We can't give up at any point of time. We have an objective in mind. Of course, and that is the reason why we are able to bring in team, why we are able to build the product or build the business itself. So until that objective is achieved, we got to persist. So that way we got to collectively take this effort forward. It cannot be a single man's initiative. So I would say the persistence is the very key thing which we got to drive. We got to stay on the edge to take things forward. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable time. Now
Yes.
I formally welcome Mr. Ashutosh Kothari, Manager Startup India, Invest India. Ashutosh sir is a part of facilitation team at the Startup Indian campaign launched by the Honorable Prime Minister of India in 2016. Sir has contributed to easing access to the government as a buyer for startups and introducing innovation to the public sector services. He has experience of more than 6 years in development sector practices in India and other European countries. He was also involved in notable projects varying from industrial and infrastructural development to implementing innovation in public services. We are very thankful to you, sir, for sparing your time and come across with us. Currently, sir is consistently working on enabling interactions between startups and public sector officials through marquee initiatives of the Government of India and policy level interventions. He also draws his experience with the public sector administrators to train the startups with the government journal procurement processes and understand the public sector's need. His experience and knowledge in public policy and advocacy are instrumental in planning and deliberating new age policies to utilize locally grown innovation. Sir also joined Invest India with the motive of shaping the vision of New India. We are very thankful and we were very excited to listen to you. Now over to you, sir. Please, you can start.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. That's a very nice introduction. So hi, everyone. So when I was a student, when I was an undergrad, I barely knew that there is something called startup. I had no idea about this term, what a startup is. So in my presentation in this session, I'll try to explain you why is it important to know what a startup is and what wonders it can do to your life. So as you can see, I mean, I'm part of the facilitation team for Startup India initiative. It is a flagship initiative of Government of India. And right before I get into what the initiative is, I would want everyone to understand why government wanted to focus on this thing, startup, a term which didn't even exist about 10 years ago. And today we have a huge initiative all around it. And we have exceptional policies which are contributing to the startup ecosystem. And if I tell you across India, it's not just the Startup India initiative launched by the central government, but various state governments and union territories have also launched their own startup initiatives to promote the startups within their state and nurture the innovation, the entrepreneurial nature of, to promote startups basically. So without further ado, so this is what the policy, how the policy looks like. It was launched in 2016. It was based on three fundamental pillars, out of which the very first one was how we can simplify the process of setting up or starting up for any entrepreneur, followed by some sort of funding support that we can provide to that entrepreneur. And lastly, some sort of training that we can give, some sort of incubation, access to incubation, access to industry academia partnerships, so that the startup can grow further. So this is largely what the entire initiative is based upon. Before we move forward, I would want to talk about how things were 10 years ago and how things are today. So if I look back 10 years ago, we used to hail for a taxi ride or even for an auto ride. Since I'm from Delhi, in the Delhi NCR, you generally hail for an auto 10 years ago. Secondly, if you go to a chemist, I remember I used to have endless eclairs, and I didn't even like eclairs because the shopkeeper or the chemist didn't have change to return back to me, so they used to give those candies and toffees. So I used to have a stack of them because I didn't like eclairs back then. And then if I tell you, we had very limited number of restaurants to have food from. We knew of a couple in our neighborhood, and we used to go there to get a takeaway or probably go out and eat. Then we used to go to the movie theater and realize, okay, it's house full. It's a house full. We won't get a ticket. We used to wait outside. We used to wait for the next show. Then to plan a trip, we used to ask our friends, relatives, family that which kind of hotel or which guest house would be the best option. But now that we come 10 years down the line, if we talk about 2021, today we have Make My Trip and other such applications which can easily help us to book hotels. We have such exceptional food delivery applications which can deliver food right at our doorstep, and it gives us a range of probably hundreds of restaurants from where you can order. That's another thing. Then we have such exceptional payment gateways, which are digital payment, and because of which I don't have to worry that I have to carry 1 rupee or 2 rupee coins with me any longer. Then we have a pharmacy is right a click away on my phone. I can order any medicine I would need or want right from my phone. So this is not just change in the market, but change in the consumer behavior. It has transformed our needs. We never knew that these needs were there. How these these innovative ideas can change our lives, and the sort of impact it has made in last 10 years is the reason why we need startups. Why a Startup India initiative has been wrapped around at such a large scale, wherein we want to nurture such innovative ideas, such innovative businesses, and make them grow much bigger and larger than they are today. And all this paradigm shift in the consumer behavior is because of startups only, and most of them were homegrown Indian startups. We can name so many. Like today, we have total 70 unicorn startups, and which is an exceptional thing. So just moving forward, I wanted to show this. I mean, I'm sure most of us have seen this in the past presentation in the past sessions. But why I would want you to look at this slide, that the data it shows is that in 2020, in the entire year, the amount of funding that went to startups is not even equivalent to what has gone into the startups in the first half of this year. So we've already surpassed what we've done in 12 months last year within 6 months, and we've already passed that half year thing. And now we are already in the second half. Let's see where we'll end by the end of this year. So this clearly depicts that how motivated the investors are in the market, how well they have adopted that. All right, so there's a startup culture. Young entrepreneurs in our country are coming up with exceptional ideas which are groundbreaking and breaking the glass ceiling to introduce us to new set of markets, new set of industries. We never knew there will be an industry called Industry 4.0. We never knew data could become an industry in itself. But that's a gift which has been given through startups, young minds, young brains that we have in our country. And this we have seen. So these investors are, none of them are like new investors. They've been in the market for last couple of 3 or 4 decades, for that matter. But now they've started moving towards the startup ecosystem because the sort of trust it has developed. Next, I would want to show you the number of unicorns. I mean, by the end of last year, we had 37 unicorns in our country, and it's not even we are almost reaching towards the end of this year, and we have already 33 new unicorns in the ecosystem, which takes the number to 70. So the sort of feat that we are achieving, shortly we may achieve what we've never achieved in past 5 years. We're going to achieve only in this year. There have been many people who told me that, right, COVID has slowed us down. The COVID didn't really let us grow. But when I look at this data, I can see so many people have done so well and very well acquired the opportunity that was offered to them. So that is the reason why I wanted to show this slide to everyone. As a student, there was no term. When I was a student, there was no term called unicorn. There was no term called startups. Today, we have such terms. Back then, it was all successful businesses and unsuccessful businesses. But today, we have unicorns. So you have something to look up to. Just moving forth, again, similar sort of data set which we've looked at in the previous few of these sessions, wherein the most insightful thing here is the number of startups we have today. Compared to 2015, the number of folds we've grown is beyond imagination. So by the first half of this year, 2021, we had more than 55,000 startups which were recognized as startups by the Government of India. So there are certain businesses which have not even applied for a recognition, and still there are many who have already applied, and the number is 55,000 by the first half of 2021. But by today, it is somewhere around 57,000 or 58,000. That is how the number is growing. That is how the number of startups which are growing in our country. So basically, I'll tell you why I wanted to show all these slides to you, is more essentially to explain you that, yes, this is the right time. Everyone's welcoming startups, everyone's welcoming fresh ideas, everyone's welcoming entrepreneurial mindset. Be it investors, be it the Government of India, be it your state government, be it your family and friends, and even your colleagues. Everyone is welcoming you with open hands to become an entrepreneur today, because you are the new base of our country. So that is why I wanted to show these slides before I jumped into the what this initiative basically is. Why did government get involved into this startup ecosystem? Is what I've just shown you, and what they're doing is what I'm going to show next. So basically, what government is trying is they're trying to enable resources for young entrepreneurs at absolutely every stage. So when I look at a startup, I can clearly break it down into 4 different stages, which starts from ideation, when you just think of the what you're going to do, followed by validation, as you can see on your screen. In validation stage, what you do is you do your market research, you validate your product, your solution. Um, you realize that okay, there is a market fit, and right after you realize a market fit, you get down to a proof of concept stage, wherein once you have that product ready, you start selling in the market, and that is when you gain early traction. There are schemes and multiple benefits that are offered to the startups in the early traction stage as well, followed by scaling stage. So scaling is when you start to grow. Everything's in place, and now all you have to do is just take off. So there are a list of initiatives that are there. If I start talking about each one of them, I'm definitely going to bore everyone. So I'd rather suggest everyone to please go to the website of www.startupindia.gov.in and figure out how that website can help you. It is huge. I mean, the website, the sort of data that is there is humongous. A lot of things are there, right? So we've been talking about startups a lot, but we didn't define what a startup is. How does the government of India define a startup? How do they know that which person should get or which entrepreneur should get this benefit, which organization should get this benefit? So there are 4 parameters onto which an organization and corporation is judged upon and realized whether it is a startup or not. Starting with, it should be a legal entity. By legal entity, I mean a private limited company, a limited liability, or a registered partnership. Nothing other than these 3. These 3 are the sort of incorporations that are welcomed as a startup. Followed by that is it should not be more than 10 years old from the date of incorporation of the organization. Next is it should not have ever crossed the revenue of 100 crores in any of the years, right from the date of incorporation. Lastly, we have certain subjective parameters to check whether they are a startup or not. They generally, I mean, basically, if you look at the first 3 parameters, it could be any new business, but any new business can't really be a startup. Can't really be termed as a startup. More specifically, what we look for is something which is innovative, something which can be scaled up to become huge, the next big thing, something which will create job in the country, something that can create you and the country some wealth. So that is what comprises of a startup. That is how a startup is defined by the government of India. And these startups are then recognized by the government of India through applications. We invite applications from startups to get recognized as the government recognized startups to get any of the benefits that are under this initiative. Next, it is a very easy recognition process. You can sit back at your home and get recognized. It's an online process entirely. There are multiple benefits assigned to it, about which I won't talk in detail, but I'll briefly cover in my presentation. So one very peculiar thing about it is even we are a startup today. It's not a very old initiative. There are initiatives in the country which have been there for past 2 or 3 decades, but we are a very new initiative. We've completed 5 years in the month of January, and we are about to complete 6 years. We are fairly new organization. Maybe we can qualify as a startup ourselves, get recognized maybe. So that's what and who we are. And we've been trying to incorporate new age technologies and new age processes through which we can benefit the startups. Now, if I talk about the startup recognition certificate that we offer, it is already all certificates are issued through a blockchain verification system, and I'm very happy to say that Startup India was one of the very initial government initiatives to implement blockchain into any of their processes. In fact, even today, it is one of the very few organizations or even very few initiatives who have implemented blockchain already. Followed by this, how have we been able to give you ease of doing business? And by doing business is ease of starting up. So when you look at a watch, you look at just the face of the watch. You see 3 needles or maybe 2 needles for some instances moving all across the face, but you don't know the mechanism that's going behind it. So this slide explains the mechanism behind that face of the watch. So we had to amend 49 regulatory reforms within the Government of India and 610 reforms within the State Government of India to welcome startups, to ensure that startups will get benefited in some or other manner. So it took us within 6 years, we did all these regulatory reforms, and I believe, before joining this organization, before joining the initiative, even I was a little confused that why is government caring about startups? They grow all by themselves. If you have a great idea, you'll have the market acceptance. But there are multiple other things that you need to take care of when you're starting off a business, and how the government can help you over there is right on the screen. So once I realized this, that is when I wanted to start to work and work towards the startup ecosystem. So moving next, as I mentioned in the beginning, that you should visit the startupindia.gov.in, the website. So it is not just a website, it is coupled as a Startup India hub, which has about more than 5 lakh registered users. Soon we'll be crossing 5.5 lakhs, fairly soon, to be honest, because the way this initiative is taking off and the sort of traction it is getting, there are multiple benefits. It is just not only for startups. As an individual, also you can get registered on this portal and get benefits that could be offered to you. You can get access to an endless network over there. You can get access to multiple policies, a lot of case studies, to be honest, a lot of pro bono services that are available for startups. The benefits are endless, to be honest. I won't cover all of them anyhow. So next comes access to funding. So being Government of India, it was pretty difficult how we can become how we can invest into startups, because we are not investors. We are the regulators. We regulate we are the public policy makers. We can make a policy, we can regulate that policy, but how can we invest into startups? Once we invest into a business, those businesses become PSUs. So just to uh, just so that these limitations won't stop us, we came up with exceptional ideas how we can catalyze the market, how we can supply money into the market. We have 2 exceptional initiatives. One is Fund of Funds. It is a corpus of 10,000 crores, which has to be spent till 2025. And out of which more than 60% has already been disbursed. Next, we have Seed Fund Scheme, a very famous scheme of lately, which was announced in January 2021, and we somehow managed to launch the entire scheme along with the portal in the month of April. And we invited applications from startups lately, about 2 to 3 months ago. And by now, we have got more than 1,500 applications from startups. So that is how this seed fund scheme is gaining traction. Next, we have market access. So, so I've worked on this pillar all by myself. In fact, the number that you see on your screen, that about 11,000 startups have registered themselves on GEM portal. It is a portal by the Government of India. It is an e-marketplace wherein the government buyers can buy themselves. Yes, government is that advanced, to be honest. So as we have Amazon, similarly, we have a government e-marketplace, wherein all the government buyers can easily buy these as per the set rules and laws of public procurement. Followed by this, we have domestic and corporate engagements that we enable. We allow startups to get in touch with corporates, get connected with corporates. There have been multiple innovation challenges that we've hosted on our platform, the startupindia.gov.in, wherein the startups can participate, make good use of those challenges, and get some exceptional cash grants, and they're able to make some good connects with the corporates. Next, we have international market engagements. So the market access was designed in three folds. First one was the government market access, corporate connects, and lastly, international engagements. The most interesting part of this market access is the international engagements. Today, we have international bridges with 11 different countries, wherein we have enabled soft landing platforms for Indian startups who can enter those territories and start operating in those territories. How it was previously, it was fairly difficult to enter a new market, a new country, a new territory, geography. But now we have tried to overcome a few of those challenges and somehow try to make it a little easier for a few startups. And there have been some great case studies around this as well. So this is a startup ranking framework. I will very briefly discuss about this because it's just that, so this is one of those initiatives wherein we are motivating the state governments to come up with a startup policy, start helping the startups have some great benefits offered to the startups so that they can grow and be nurtured in the premise and in the territory.